TV.
Thank you, Mr. Hamilton. Okay, 7 o'clock, we have a quorum. So I'll call the meeting to order. And let me start by just reading the governor's preamble for the remote meeting executive order. So good evening. This is the May 11th open meeting of the Hopkins Conservation Commission being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12th, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19. To mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we're complying with the executive order that suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. All members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. This meeting will feature public comment. For this meeting, the Conservation Commission is convening by Zoom as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Additionally, the meeting is also being broadcast live and recorded by HCAM. Accordingly, please be aware that others may be able to see you and take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast by voice or video may be captured by the recording. Supporting materials that have been provided to members of the commission for this meeting are available on the town's website. After commission members and staff have discussed each project application on the agenda, the chair will then open the discussion to public comment. Members of the public who wish to speak are asked to identify their name and address. 3 minutes will be afforded for each public comment. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote of the commission members. So at this time, I'd like to confirm commission members that are currently present. Melissa Ricos.
Here.
Janine LeBlanc.
Present.
Ted Barker Hook.
Barker Hook is here.
Jim Cirillo.
Here.
Ed Harrow.
I'm here.
Okay. And Carrie emailed and she'll be joining a little bit late. So she will be with us shortly. Also, we have staff for the commission. I'll take the roll call vote for staff. Don McAdam.
Present.
Anna Rogers.
Present.
And Matt Verrill.
Present.
Okay, very good. Okay, so just for those folks from the public who are joining tonight, we had a couple last minute requests for hearings to be postponed. So all of the mass laborers training hearings, the notice of intent will be continued until our next meeting, which is May 25th. The Abbott Realty Trust has been postponed to or continued to the May 25th meeting. And the hearing for Babin at 50 Lakeshore Drive, which is a notice of intent, has also been continued to May 25th. So we don't want you hanging out on the call for a few hours to find out that we're not going to be hearing those applications tonight.
So,
Okay.
excuse me, through the chair.
Yes.
So
Don.
Abbott continued. I'm sorry, I must have missed that email.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah, it came in late this afternoon, Don.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I forwarded to you, so you should have a PDF request for the file.
All right. Okay. I'll try and update the other thing. So anyone who's going to come in late will see the link.
Yeah, the one on the calendar should be updated.
Oh, good. You did it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, and the commission members, I'd just like you to know that Kimberly Sierra McCauley is on the call tonight, and We'll formally appoint her a little bit later in the meeting, but I just wanted to welcome her and congratulate her on being appointed as the new Conservation Administrator for the town of Hopkinton. We look forward to you joining us formally in a couple weeks.
Thanks, Jeff.
Okay, you're welcome, Kim. Okay, Don, let's jump into the work session items. So we have order of conditions for Bronstein, 8 Cobblers Way, Gamble, 60 Lake Shore Drive, Toll Brothers, Lot 26, Wayland Road, The Nations, 0 Wood Street, and we have a certificate of compliance for Afria at 200 Wood Street. Thank you.
Yeah, for the COC, the other orders that you mentioned were all from the last hearing. So we received a request for a certificate of compliance, and since it's an invalid one, the work could never get started. So we're just looking to document that. If you guys just wanted to take a vote that you're looking to have, it signed and issued, we can do that.
Yeah, which one was that for, Don? I'm sorry.
It's file number 188-1560. It was 200 Wood Street. There's actually a new application for it, so it's a way of closing out the old, while they're going forward with the new.
Okay, I think that's fine. Is everyone in agreement with that? Any opposition? Okay, so why don't we formally memorialize the order of conditions as discussed in the COC. If I can get a motion that the order of conditions and the certificate of compliance for 200 Wood Street be issued in the form currently before the commission, and that the conservation administrator be authorized to sign the order of conditions on behalf of the members present.
This is Ted, so moved.
And a second, please.
I'll second. Melissa.
Okay, that was Melissa, and we'll do the roll call vote. Melissa,
Aye.
Janine,
Aye.
Ted,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Jim,
Yeah. Yes.
and Jeff is an aye. Okay, all right, thank you, Don.
All righty.
Okay,
Well, I just see, I did a typo. I put May 6th instead of May 11th for this COC. I'll do that up. I'll get that changed.
okay, thank you. I didn't even notice that, but
I just noticed it now as I'm bringing them up.
okay. Okay, the draft, so new applications received. We have a few for the Chamberlain Wayland subdivision and the new notice of intent for 200 Wood Street that Don referenced. So we'll be seeing those at the next meeting, Don, correct?
Yeah, I think pretty much. I'll have to check the agenda. We'll see if any of them didn't make the deadline, and it'll be at the next one, but they'll be coming up shortly.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, the draft minutes for April 6th, 2021. Did everyone get a chance to look at those? And are there any comments or questions? Okay, can I get a motion to approve the minutes of April 6th, 2021, please?
So moved. Zed.
Ed made the motion, and a second.
Second.
Okay, Ted, thank you. And we'll do the roll call vote. Melissa,
Aye.
Janine,
Aye.
Ted,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
and Jeff is an aye. All right, and Anna Carey just joined the meeting. Okay. Mariano, 244 Hayden Row Street. This is a request for an informal discussion for the installation of a pool.
Hi, this is Mary Beth Mariano from 244 Hayden Row.
Hi, Mrs. Mariano, how you doing tonight?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you.
So we are looking to put in a pool to our yard, and we wanted to make sure we're going through all the proper processes. And talking with the engineering company, it looked like the area that we would have space to do so, and it will cost us quite a bit of money just to do the engineering and go through the process with the town. So I'm here today just to understand what we are able to do before we go through all that. This is a view of the invasive species that's kind of slotted out in the area on the as-built plan that you can see here. So we know there's some restrictions with our yard, and just wanted to understand what we would be even capable of doing before we spend a lot of money to go through the process.
Okay. All right, so what did you have in mind? Are you planning on putting an above ground pool, an in-ground pool?
So preferably an in-ground, but then we're looking again just to see anything that we can do. We don't have any space at all really with our existing yard. And then with the invasive species, they're starting to grow into our yard. They're kind of killing all the trees as well in the back. So we were looking to see if we could extend our yard and put an in-ground pool if possible.
Okay. All right, Don, can you just enlarge that a little bit, please? So that red area is the area where you're thinking of putting the pool?
Yes.
Through the
Okay.
chair,
Yes, Don, go ahead.
you'd see these markings here are the PIB,
Yeah,
and it's a ongoing condition.
yeah, okay.
Number 84 of the certificate of compliance. So in essence, they'd be looking to go into the permanent area, no disturbance with their proposed pool. Portions of it.
Yeah.
Right,
It's not a great detail, but this is the area. So this area would be inside the landscaped area and this area would be outside.
And again, looking to see if there's any, like a different spot we should be considering. Our neighbors have a yard that goes as far back as kind of what we're looking at. I know we probably have some wetlands maybe to the left. I know they can be revisited as well. So we're really just looking to see if there's any possibility for us, or little boys just really want a pool for the summer.
yeah. So this was one of the projects that Mr. What was his name? Don Coriani, or right?
Yes. And it was part of the subdivision of the lot. So even the ones further down, the one for Claro was
Right,
part of
Okay.
this as
subdivision.
well. This was
Yeah.
the cumulative analysis at the time for the, but there were, there's the current filing we got down here. And then one of the other lots was probably needed a filing, but never came through.
Right,
The commission looked
okay.
at cumulative impacts of the project.
right, yeah, okay. Can you go back to the site plan, Don, please? So when we permitted the construction of the house, Mrs. Mariano,
Mhm.
it was, portion of the yard and the house was in buffer zone area,
Mhm.
which is why, as part of the approval for allowing the house and the yard to be developed to the extent that it has been, one of the requirements was that a permanent immovable barrier be put in place, which essentially meant that, we would allow construction of the house and some of the yard in buffer zone, but as a, for allowing that construction in the buffer zone, we had required that this permanent immovable barrier be put in place. Basically, assuring the commission that there would be no disturbance beyond that in perpetuity going forward. So that was the, that was the rationale behind putting the PIB in place,
Mhm.
which allowed the construction of the home essentially.
Okay.
So for us now to, allow something to be put in beyond that would be going against, what we had originally agreed to, with the developer.
Mhm.
So I don't know if you can enlarge the site plan, Don, a little bit. I'm just trying to
Sure,
see.
I
if
just wanted to
there's-
bring in the full scope. There was also a wetland crossing.
Right,
involved,
yeah,
So there was more than just buffer zone disturbance on this particular lot.
yeah. No, that's a good point, Don. Thank you. Yeah, so we also allowed a wetland crossing, which was, a significant amount of disturbance when we permitted the house.
Mhm.
So I don't know if, I'm just trying to see if there's another area there, Don. Maybe to the north of the PIB. Possibly where it might be able to,
No, we're not sure where the north arrow is on this.
yeah, to the right of
Yeah,
where.
so the north would be, yeah, here's your north arrow.
Yeah, so I'm thinking like in the side.
Well, she's got, problematic, she's got her
I-
well here, and then she's got geothermal wells here.
Yeah, that's what's really crushing us over here too.
Yeah, can you put, is there any ability for you to put it into the right of the geothermal wells?
Property lines right here.
Yeah.
That's the property line, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and we were kind of comparing because our neighbors right next to us, like their yard extends farther than us. And I know we have the permanent immovable barriers, but they didn't. And so we were trying to understand what was going on there. All of that area that's scoped out here too is all just like a massive pit of invasive species as well. And that's going to grow into the yard. So I didn't know if there is anything we can do to revisit and just whatever is possible for us. We're just looking to understand before we pay somebody a ton of money with like the engineering companies and stuff like that.
Yeah,
We can look at I mean, I don't have the current background information for this lot, but we can look it up. I assume it had a PIB as well. I don't know if it's in the exact same location as yours, but each site's unique. you
Yeah,
know? So,
yeah. And then that house was built a few years before us, so.
yeah, my recollection is all three of those lots had PIBs on the backs, on the back end of them there. I know it's not shown on this plan, but yeah, so unfortunately, I mean, I'll open it up to the other commission members for their comment, but the reason we put the PIB in place, the permanent immovable barrier was, because we didn't want any disturbance beyond that area as part of the approval for permitting the house originally.
Yeah, and is
Uh,
there, I know, because we're trying to like have the, again, can save all of the like land around here and stuff, but I don't know if like there's a way to, I know I sent a picture in of the invasive species, just how much that's kind of taking up the trees. This was even a few months ago. It looks even worse now with it growing in, but that is essentially what we had slotted out there is just a big pit of the earth. It's not really used whatsoever as it is right now.
Yeah,
the commission could entertain, if you're looking to remove non-native invasive species,
Yeah,
some sort of plan to move that and, plant something more native that would be more attractive to you. The commission could entertain that.
so would it be possible to like make that just like an extended yard and kind of fit, I guess at this point it would have to be an above ground pool within the right areas? I think if we were to put even a pool and we were like, what we had ended up looking at, it was going to be really small. It's going to be just taking up our entire yard and like really close to our house, trying to fit with the space we had today. And we did prefer to get the in-ground, but really just trying to understand any possibilities we have before we go through the process.
yeah. I mean, unfortunately, again, with the PIB, there's no disturbance. You know, that's the condition. You can see it there on the screen, number 84.
Yeah, and there's no
Um,
way to revisit that in any way.
Not really, because, you know, if we revisit it on this site, then it opens up a Pandora's box, you know, and sets a precedent for every other property, you know, where we put a PIB in place.
Through the
Um,
chair.
Yes, Don.
I mean, you know, legally, if you can submit a notice of intent application asking to do whatever you want. It's just the commission would look at this information and they may not, you know, agree to that based on the previous information.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm looking at and understand, because even to have the engineering company come do that for us was gonna cost us thousands of dollars.
Yeah, let me, Mrs. Mariano, I'll open it up to the other commission members for that comment to just give you their view on it, you know, because, you know, at Don's point, you can submit a notice of intent, putting the request before us, but my sense is that, you know, it most likely get denied. But I'll open it up to the other commission members for their comments.
Through the chair,
Yes, Ed.
Ed Harrow, and I would hope that the commission would encourage the property owner to figure out how to deal with the invasives. As you know, this is sort of a hot button for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Through the chair.
Yes, go ahead, Ted.
Ms. Mariano, I'm afraid I'm in agreement with Jeff. I think that this is just a tough situation as far as the yard you inherited.
I know.
But I do have one quick question.
Sure.
We only have the one photograph of your yard.
Yep.
Are the markings for the PIB still in your yard? Can you see them in your yard still, or have they disappeared? They just don't show on that photo.
No, there's not in the yard. But I know it was generally like where the lot, like our yard is, and like I'm assuming where the woods and everything start is where that started.
Huh. Do you think that the PIB is along the edge of the grass in the wilderness there?
That was what my assumption was, and like what we were told is essentially you can't do anything with what's already cleared out. Yeah. And I had the well in the picture kind of so you could see the perspective.
So at the risk of sharing more bad news, I wonder if the commission is interested in making sure that we have PIB markings in the yard. I don't know. I love what you've done, Ms. Mariano, to get in touch with us, to do everything right.
Yeah.
I'm worried if and when you decide to sell the home, the next person isn't as.
They don't know. Yeah.
These things.
Yep. I know we're trying to just do the right things and see what is possible. And we were about to go spend all this money. I was like, it's going to be a waste if you guys say no. So looking to understand from all of you.
Yeah, no, I think that was the prudent thing to do.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if there's the ability to put like an above ground pool, you know, in that section of lawn area that you have there. I mean, it may be smaller than what you were thinking about, but you know, you might be able to fit something in there.
Yeah.
But Don, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say the issue we were having with that is it was going to be really small and take up the entire yard as well. So I don't know if, again, there is a possibility of like even just making our yard a little bit larger. But I know the biggest issue here is the permanent immovable barriers.
Yeah.
Jeff, do you think that we need to restore markings, even if it's a simple post along the scrub brush there, or a couple posts with medallions?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Are you intending to, you know, aside from the pool, Mrs. Mariani, were you looking at removing kind of the invasive species and so, you know, that's something that we would certainly entertain, you know, the removal of invasive species, and then, you know, replanting it with native species that are a little bit more, you know, visually attractive and provide more habitat value.
Okay.
You know, unfortunately, it can't be converted to grass or yard area, right?
Yeah.
But you know, that's something that the commission would definitely entertain, and I think, you know, if you do go forward with that, you know, we can put a a demarcation, some medallions in there, just kind of showing, since there aren't any there now,
Yeah,
showing the location of the PIB when you do that work. And I think that should have been a condition in this. I don't know why the developer didn't do it, but anyway,
Through the
at any
chair.
rate. Yes, go ahead, Carrie.
It does look like there might be some boulders back there. They're just covered with invasive species. Like in the photo, it looked like there might. So
Okay,
it might be. Yeah, see that? That could possibly
yeah.
be it.
yeah.
Through the chair,
Yes, go ahead, Matt.
we did a certificate of compliance on this back in 2018. I pulled up some of my pictures I had from that. Quite a few of the PIBs were just put on small, like really small fence stakes
Mm,
that didn't look all that permanent, in all honesty. But I have those pictures, and Don probably has those buried somewhere.
Yeah, I was just looking them up, Matt. Oh, wait, photos. Here we go. I got the old file here.
Okay, so that has pictures from about 3 years ago anyways, that might be helpful.
Most recent ones I've got are from 2017. So, no, I don't have your COC photos, Matt. I got construction photos, it looks like.
But I can send those over to Don. He can provide them to the homeowner, so at least there's a little bit of basis of maybe what they'll be looking for out there.
okay.
Okay. All right, so does that give you enough background, Mrs. Marion? I know it's not the answer you wanted to hear.
Yeah, so it
Yes.
sounds like a no. I shouldn't try to go through the process because it will get denied.
I think so.
Okay.
That'd be my, yeah, I think that it'd just be a tough thing for us to permit. This is a site that, we just issued the COC a few years ago. And at this point, allow work in the area where, we didn't want to see work, because it was
Yeah,
supposed to be undisturbed. I just think it'd be it'd be tough for us to approve that.
okay.
All right.
Well, thank you for your time.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Sorry.
That's okay.
All right. Yeah, have a good evening. Okay, let's move on to the public application. So Morrow, 88 Franklin Road. This is a notice of intent for a garage. And I just have to read this before we start. Hopkins Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, May 11th, 2021 at 7 o'clock, virtually online, to hear all persons interested in a notice of intent filed by Sean Morrow to construct in addition to a barn with associated site work. The location is 88 Franklin Road, assessors map R9, block 13, lot E. Okay, do we have the homeowner on the line?
Yes, we're here.
Good evening, Mr. Morrow.
How you doing?
Doing well, thank you. You want to give us an overview of what you'd like to do, please?
Yeah, so really we're looking to extend out the back of our barn. Our barn really is a multitude of barn, garage, family storage, wood shop, which turned into a home gym come COVID. And so really, to kind of provide us with enough space for our growing family, which is now 3 kids, we're looking to extend out the back of the barn. We've been working with Dave Marquidant to put together this plan. Basically, the addition would fall within the 100-foot barrier, but not break the 50-foot barrier. There's not really an option to go to the side of it, the left side on this picture, given we have a septic system installed, which is actually why it's slightly staggered to be enough feet off the existing tanks.
Okay. All right. Well, congratulations on the 3 kids. Sounds like a lot of work.
That can be an understatement sometimes.
My last one is a senior in high school, so he's getting kicked out in a couple months.
There you go.
Going to college, but you know. Okay. All right. So Matt, you had a couple comments. Do you want to walk us through those, if you would?
Sure.
Okay.
So I guess the first one was, looks like there's an existing shed in the location of the proposed addition. Is that going to be demolished or relocated or?
No, really, it's just an extension of the existing barn. So the existing barn will remain intact.
Yeah, I'm talking about where Don's circling right now, where it says existing
Uh,
building.
oh, but
Boulder.
that's a boulder, existing boulder.
It's a boulder. Yep.
Very square.
Yep.
Okay. That's easy. And then a question, so I know you guys had gotten an order of conditions to redo the septic system quite recently. Has that work been done?
It has, yeah. It's waiting final sign off. But Tim Kelly from Kelly Septic Solutions is installed it, and it's pretty much all it's up and running right now.
Okay, because that was just my question. If that work hadn't been done yet, it looked like maybe there was a possibility of moving those tanks and allowing the new building, the addition to be maybe a little bit further from the wetlands, but sounds like that ship has sailed. On the plan, there's a couple of drains that seem to be referenced. Wasn't sure what those were currently or if they need any kind of outlet stabilization or anything. Don, they're more down to the sort of behind the new building there. This is extension of drain proposed by others. And
Okay.
then,
And then you got one here too. You got a proposed drain by others, an extension of
Yeah.
drain by others.
Yep.
so you're gonna just maybe talk about those a little bit?
Sure, can I talk? This is Dave Marquardt.
Yes. How you doing, Mr. Marquardt?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Yeah, so as you saw in the other plan for the septic, the other engineer had proposed a 6-inch drain that came down from the lot line, ran in between the new septic in red and the existing garage and barn right there. So we're continuing that. Our barn corner is about a few feet away from that. So we're extending that down and running parallel to the back line of the proposed barn, and then discharging kind of to the left rear of the barn, this almost in the same location as our foundation drain. The proposed barn is not going to have a full foundation. It is going to have a slab, and it's going to match the slab elevation of the existing barn. Access, that drain is in as of yesterday to about the right in between the tank, existing tank, and the right rear existing barn corner. It's not quite all the way down to where it needs to be yet, as shown on the other plan. I think they're waiting to do that connection per this plan. But yeah, like Sean had said, the tanks are in, the tank and the pump chamber are in. The proposed access to this activity is along the existing driveway. And then in between the existing barn and the new shed, and the new system, we're going to be right up against the edge of the tank. We're not going to go over by the former corral and play area. And we do provide erosion control, that big, thick dotted line, 35 feet off the wetland. There's our erosion control, and our PIB is those little stars there.
Yeah. What is the PIB proposed to be?
I think we're thinking medallions right now.
Okay. And then the outfall for those drains, what, are they they just discharging out into the,
It's right at the bottom of the grading. We can provide, we can put some riprap there and some boulders there to ensure that that doesn't erode.
okay,
We could do that.
okay. And then I think one of Matt's other comments, Matt, was the infiltration system for the rooftop.
Yeah, just if there was any consideration or room, or if that was something the commission wanted to see.
Is the applicant amenable to doing that?
We had looked at doing that. We would put it at sort of at the left rear corner of the new addition, kind of where these outfalls are.
Mhm.
Existing barn does have gutters. I think the plan could be that this would have gutters. To put an infiltration system, a recharge for rooftop, it would require about another 1,400 square feet of disturbance. That was one of the things that we sort of evaluated before we to show those. We went back and looked at the wetland, and the wetland itself is very gentle, from front to back almost. So the thought process was that when it discharged and fell on the ground, it's not like it's going to run to the wetland and then run in the wetland. The wetland is not flowing very fast at all. So we thought that the water from the rooftop would generally stay in the same location. That was one of the reasons we didn't show roof recharge as well as the additional disturbance.
1,400 square feet, you said?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. And Matt, the erosion controls seem adequate, it looks like, based on your review.
Yeah, that was pretty much the extent of my comments.
Okay, great. All right, thank you. All right, I'll open it up to the other commission members for comments and questions.
Through the chair,
Yes, Mr. Harrow.
can we go back to see the original layout again, please? So the drain, what are we draining?
The drain, coming from the property line on the left side of the screen to the line that we draw currently, I'm assuming is picking up flow from maybe the abutters property line. Don, can you bring up the previous plan, please? You can kind of see that there's a drain there now, and then Dan was just relocating it. What it's picking up, I'm not sure if it's just acting as an interceptor, because that property is very deep in the back, and maybe the flow is getting to the home. But you can see that it goes just a little bit over the line, but I'm not sure how deep it is and what the purpose was originally.
Okay, and then my other question, I think, the original plan doesn't show the leach field, but I believe the leach field, looking at this picture here, would be, like 7 o'clock.
The leach field, straight up the page would be 12. The leach field would be to the left of the plan, 9 o'clock. Yeah, system is between the tank and the property line to the left as you see it on the screen. It's uphill.
That's it for me.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from commission members?
I should say thank you.
This is Janine. So what is there now where the proposed barn is? Is that previously disturbed?
Yes, the tree line is shown on the plan. There's a corral, and now to the left of the existing barn, you can kind of see the tree line drawn in a short curl. It follows the corral, comes all the way to the back. It's about 47 feet off flag number 8. And then it follows pretty much the drain. So most of the barn, there you go. Most of the barn is in already previously disturbed. So we just have a little bit of tree clearing to do in the area of the drain and the grading.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, how much tree clearing needs to be done, Mr. Markonot? Just out of curiosity?
My attention to.
It's from that point, Don, to the plan a little bit.
Sure. Just wanted to bring up your disturbance from
Yep.
your NII.
Yep.
Get a lot of information, Dave.
Yeah. Thank you. You can see the tree line at the back line, near the back line of the proposed barn addition. From that point right there, going almost due south is 23 feet.
Okay,
That's 23 feet.
so you have an estimated number of trees,
I do not. A lot of trees were cut before we got there. The stumps are shown. I think there may be hemlocks that are there. Some small pines, but I don't know the caliper. I don't know caliper.
Okay, and those are within the 50 to 100 foot, right?
Yes.
Okay,
This is Janine again, my perspective, we've already got a house in the 50 to 100 and a barn in the 50 to 100. Now we want to put a second barn in the 50 to 100. I'm not a fan, I guess. It's just that there's a lot already in there. And I know a lot of it may have been pre-existing or whatever, but we've got a lot in there already.
Yeah, I mean, we have a big lot. I believe it's over 2.1 acres. A lot of that, the size of the lot was the appeal why we moved in. We've been doing nothing but, cleaning up the property, which was vacant for a year and a half prior to us moving in. And I do a lot of, kind of the landscaping, some of the, interior woodwork myself. I have a wood shop in the barn. I also do collect cars. I have a couple cars. So, those will fill up the car bays on the side of the barn, as well as a tractor and just, we really just need the additional space. It was something that we were even considering, possibly having to sell the property because it wasn't big enough to fit our growing family. So that's really kind of the rationale behind it.
that makes sense. We just have to be cognizant of, incursion into the buffer zones, as a commission. So, we understand why you want to do it. But we, as a commission, our charge is to, minimize the amount of disturbance in buffer zone and resource areas. Because they're protected under the bylaw and the Wetlands Protection Act. So, that's kind of where we're coming from, they're resources for the town and, it's our charge to protect them. But anyways,
Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
I'm just wondering the area that's shown as the corral on the plan. I don't know if how actively that's being used, if, to Janine's point, if there would be any opportunity for perhaps giving back some buffer zone that's in that area and closer to the wetland where that gets quite close to the wetland, as mitigation, just throwing it out there as a possibility.
Yeah, it's a good suggestion, Matt. So the former corral area there,
Yeah, it's right now, it's fenced in. I believe it's some type of sandstone. The former owner did have a horse and a donkey. There is horse stalls on that side of the barn. And then right now there's a swing set play area. So it's always something that was kind of fully disturbed, when we purchased the property. I think it's been that way probably all the way since Bill Bacardi built it back in 1976.
Okay.
But yeah.
So I guess the question would be, would you be amenable to letting some of that area there that's fairly close to the wetland, revert to kind of an area where, you don't disturb it, and, possibly put some plantings in there to enhance the habitat value, as a mitigation for, allowing the proposed barn addition going in. Is that something that you would consider?
Yeah, so basically what you're saying is, kind of take down some of that corral area, plant some native species to kind of lessen that disturbance footprint, so that, that would allow for the proposed barn addition.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And then you would just let that area revert to, let it go wild essentially, so you wouldn't disturb it, right? It would just be there as a buffer zone habitat.
Yeah.
I think that's fine.
Okay. Okay.
Through the chair,
Yes, go ahead, Ted.
that would certainly make it an easier sell for me. It's taken me a while to try to kind of read the plans and figure out exactly what's going on. Letting the corral go back, and the more that is allowed to grow back to its natural state, the better I'd feel. But a little bit I'm with Janine as well. That is a huge addition, it looks like to me, as I begin to understand the plans. It's the same size as the existing barn, and it looks, just eyeballing, about the same size as the home. And I wonder if it could be smaller and still achieve your goals. The first thing that started alarms for me was hearing about some tree clearing. And then when I started to really study the plans, I was thinking that it was disturbed behind the barn there, but now I think it was disturbed where the corral is. Could the structure be smaller and still achieve your goals? Does it have to be that big?
Yeah, so I mean, I did measure it out. The issue is, I'm trying to fit a few collector cars, a tractor. I have my wood shop in the center of the barn. I have all my kids' stuff. Like I said, I mean, it was kind of like we measured out the space that we thought like that would really, we would need to make it work. And so that was our hope, was to go with that existing space. Now, I mean, it definitely won't be an eyesore for the road. It's set back. The addition will be behind the existing barn. And I'm happy, giving back, some or a good portion of the existing corral, and, kind of that's within the 50-foot barrier, to let that happen. Because originally I was thinking, hey, that's already just being a homeowner, I was like, that's already a disturbed area. That would be a great spot for the addition. But, that of course falls within, after working with Dave, we found that the corral falls within the 50-foot barrier. So that's when we started looking behind the existing barn.
Okay.
So your answer in short is no, you can't have a smaller addition and achieve what you're looking for.
Correct, Ted.
Okay. Well, we have to move on. So I think what we need to do is, you heard from a couple commission members on what their thoughts were. Mr. Marquardt, maybe you can regroup with the property owner.
Yep.
And come up with a plan, for the former corral mitigation.
Yep.
Maybe consider rethinking the size of the addition. That's something that you could consider, but, we'll have to continue it out to the 25th at this point. We have other items on the agenda that we have to move on to.
Okay.
Before we do that, are there any comments or questions from the public at this point? Okay, great. So our next meeting is the 25th. If you can just send Don a request to continue it to that date, that would be great.
Okay.
All
Thank you
right.
very much.
Okay, thank you, folks.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, Toll Brothers, Chamberlain Street, Lot 1. This is a notice of intent for a single-family home. And I gotta read this before we get started. Hopkins Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, May 11th, 2021 at 7 o'clock, virtually online to hear all persons interested in a notice of intent filed by Toll Brothers to construct a single-family house with associated site work. The location is 0 Chamberlain Street, Lot 1, Assessors Map R24, Block 1, Lot 1. Do we have Mr. Cusick on the call?
I am here. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and commission members.
Yep, so just a quick, just a quick point of reference, Mr. Cusick. So Matt was on vacation the past couple weeks, so he hasn't had a chance to formally review these and submit his comments to the commission. So he has started that, but we don't have the comments. So maybe for these, you can kind of give us an overview of what you want to do on the lots, and then we'll continue out to the next meeting until we get some Matt's comments, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
You are welcome. So lot 1, as you can see, this is really the first lot as you enter the development from on the Chamberlain side. As you go to the next sheet, that shows a blow up of the area. This lot is actually pushed back into the site, essentially similar to the direction that we were given and the intent that we discussed on the prior applications that were before you. We've located the structure entirely outside of the 100-foot buffer. You can see the thicker dashed yellow line to the front and to the back. We've also limited the grading to the open space parcel. We haven't gone into that, so we stop it there exactly along the edges. The buffer zone impact for this lot is really getting into the lot. The house is kind of behind the wetlands. It's really the only way we could access it by kicking the driveway over. So we have a driveway that essentially goes outside of the 50-foot buffer zone and meanders around that to get to the rear of the house. Again, no work within the 0 to 50. It's all within the 50 to 100. This is probably the longest driveway we have in the entire subdivision, just based on the area of upland that we had to work with. So we have a pretty long driveway to get there. And really, that's pretty consistent. It's kind of hard to see perhaps on screen, but the driveway is really wedged right up against the property line on the, I'll call it the plan itself. It's really what's driving that as you come around that bend. And then we try to minimize the grading associated with that to respect the 50-foot buffer. Yep, exactly. That's the property line there.
Okay. That's a long driveway.
It certainly is. As I
I
mentioned.
want to shovel that in the wintertime.
No, you and me both.
All right.
We've kept the PIBs, throughout the entire site as previously. And again, erosion controls are maintained with a silt fence and a compost sock as with the previously approved plans that were presented.
Okay. Let me open it up to questions or comments from commission members.
Through the chair,
Yes, Mr. Hook.
Barker Hook, what is the?
Mr. Barker Hook.
Thank
Sorry.
I don't want to lose the
I
white.
was trying to be efficient.
What is the proposed PID along the driveway? What will it look like?
We haven't got a detail of that yet, but it'd probably be a post with just a post located in that location, just so it's permanent and you can see it.
So I'm a little torn. On the one hand, I don't like any construction within that zone. On the other hand, if the driveway is that close to the 50, I'm worried about whether it be people trimming bushes or snow being shoved into the 0 to 50 boundary. That scares me. But I also don't like building there. So part of me says maybe a stone wall will keep stuff from flowing into the 0 to 50. On the other hand, I don't like building there. So I'm a little torn by that driveway there. I don't know anything about what I'm about to ask. Is there any way to move the driveway over and get a right of way through the neighboring property, given that no real homeowner owns them yet, to get the driveway a little further from the 50?
Not really on that site. I think it becomes difficult as that next lot's kind of narrow as well, which we'll get to. And I think really we wanted to keep all of the driveways separate as you come in. You'll see how skinny lot 2 is there right next to us. So we've really kind of pushed that over as far as we can. And it's really just the driveway coming through there. It isn't a portion of the yard or anything along those lines.
Right, but like I say, I worry if the driveway is that close that suddenly there can be, let me clear some of the bushes out of there for the homeowner later, not you guys.
Certainly.
And that whatever PIB is there, if it's just some medallions, it could be easily ignored. So anyway, early feedback is that makes me uneasy, that part there. And I wonder if there's a solution that I don't have in my head right now.
Okay, thank you. Other comments, questions from commission members?
This is Jim. I'll just say that this is maybe one of the examples in this subdivision where the lots, as they're subdivided, shouldn't be that way. Lots 1 and lot 2, if they were together, would be a much less of a problem for us. But obviously that can't change now.
Okay, thank you, Jim.
That would solve my driveway concern, wouldn't it?
Okay, other comments from commission members? Any comments from the public at this point?
So Jeff, this
Yep.
is Jim. Let me just throw out there, if it's a possibility that lots 1 and 2 become one lot, just a thought, maybe that's a possibility. Obviously, the lot 1 has to buy lot 2.
I think we'd previously gone through really that exercise through that iterative process that we went through with the commission, where we've really done that. We've looked at eliminating lots and combining lots and just reconfiguring everything. And even on the Wayland side, we actually redesigned the entire road. If you recall, we originally had the subdivision as 32 lots, in which we've now reduced 3 of those lots already. By combining those, we would be eliminating yet another lot, which would just be very, very difficult to do.
This is Janine through the chair. Could lots 1 and 2 somehow share the first half of like the beginning of the driveway, and then the rest of the driveway kind of shoots off of lot 2?
Like a common driveway?
Yeah, at least for part of it, because I'm sort of looking at lot 2, like maybe where lot 2's driveway comes in, then it could continue on to continue out to lot 1, so that they're sharing the lot 2's driveway, I guess, and then lot 1 is an extension of lot 2 to get to their house.
I think even if that was to happen,
Surface from that 50 to 100, and that would be nice. That's a lot of pavement.
I think even if that was still to happen, there'd be a significant amount of that driveway that would need to remain. It really only adjusts that front portion of the lot, which is actually the part that's furthest away from the wetland. So I really don't think that would solve accomplish what you're trying to do there. The largest section of the driveway behind lot 2 would still need to remain to access lot 1.
Okay. All right. Okay, so you have a few comments there just to consider, Mr. Cusick, on this one. And again, we don't have Matt's comments yet. Why don't we move? Are there any comments from the public on this lot? If so, you can raise your hand. Okay. All right. So we'll continue this out to the 25th. And on these next few hearings, if you can just send us a formal request to continue it, Mr. Cusick, for lots 1, 2, 3, and 5 and 15 as we move through them.
You got it. Yep. At the end of the hearing, I'll send all to you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, the Hopkins Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, May 11th, 2021 at 7 o'clock virtually online to hear all persons interested in a notice of intent filed by Toll Brothers to construct a single-family house with associated site work. The location is 0 Chamberlain Street, Lot 2, Assessors Map R24, Block 1, Lot 2.
So lot 2 is on the opposite side, as we were just discussing, of lot 1. It's a very narrow lot. You'll notice that the house, similar to really everything we've discussed previously, is pushed all the way to the front of the site. And in this case, I'll call it to the plan left, thereby just really minimizing or separating the distance as much as possible. Again, in this case, there's really a very minimal amount of buffer zone work here. It's really everything, between the side of the house and the driveway on lot 1. So there's about 5,000 square feet of buffer zone work in that area. The rear of the site, it goes back quite far, so we're not impacting the buffer zone to the rear of the lot. Again, even though that being the case, we still showed PIBs well in front of the 100-foot buffer, just to put some sort of a stop there. And again, erosion controls are consistent with what we've previously discussed, silt fence and compost sock.
Okay. All right, thank you. And I'll open up to comments from the commission members.
Through the chair, I think this is my happiest site so far by a long shot. I am curious, between the house and the lot 1 driveway, is that lawn or is that some scatterings of trees that can be put in there?
It's proposed as lawn. We don't have any trees proposed at this point, but it's a lawn area between the two.
Okay.
Okay. Any other comments from commission members?
Through the chair.
Yes, Mr. Harrow.
So the 5,000 feet is basically mostly lawn area. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have any comments from the public? All right, so we'll continue this one out to the 25th as well. And we'll move on to lot 3. The Hopkins Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, May 11th, 2021 at 7, virtually online to hear all persons interested in a notice of intent filed by Toll Brothers to construct a single-family house with associated site work. Location 0 Chamberlain Street, Lot 3, map R24, Block 1, Lot 3.
Right, next one in line, similar to every other application, the house is pulled as far forward as possible and to the left of the site. The majority of the work is outside of the buffer zone. There's a small section to the bottom left that is proposed within the buffer zone. It's about 3,300 square feet. That work in there is really needed to direct the drainage on lot 4. There's a basin on the backside of lot 4. You'll see the road keeps angling down. So we've got to direct the drainage around the house on lot 4 and into the basin behind it. That's really what the small section of work proposed there is for. Same erosion controls as previously discussed, and same PIBs as previously discussed.
Okay, all right, thank you. And I'll open up to comments from the commission.
The chair, I seem to always be first.
Yep, go ahead.
I don't see any reason why the PIB shouldn't follow the 100-foot wetland border. So I don't know where north and south is anymore. I think that's the north backside of the lot. I would love to see the PIB follow the 100 the way it does from lot 2 into halfway through lot 3. It looks like probably there's an extension of lawn roughly 40 feet inside the 100, and I don't see any reason for it.
Yeah, that's a good point, Ted.
Ted, you go first because B comes first. And I echo your thoughts.
Which section were you referring to? I apologize, Ted.
So that's okay. And I lose track of where we are directionally. So Don, if you could just put the arrow cursor where the 100 bubbles out close to the house, right there. I would love to see the PIB follow that line the way it does for the other half of the backyard.
Got it. Okay, that shouldn't be a problem. Again, we'd need to kind of grade in that area originally to get the drainage around it, but we can kind of limit that for future encroachment and let that just grow in after the grading is set. So we can certainly do that.
Can I ask a question, Jeff?
Yep.
So just, this is more curiosity. So these swales in the back of the yard are integral to getting water to the stormwater basin and for the stormwater, management to work. Are they part of the overall homeowners association maintenance type thing? Or is this, like, what if this homeowner does something to modify that grading? I mean, I guess they'd have to come in front of us, but is it tied in any way to the O&M to make sure that the drainage system will continue to work into the future?
So to your point, any work back in that area to the 100 feet, within the 100 feet would require them to come back to you. And I think to Ted's point, if we moved that the PIB up along the 100, then they wouldn't be allowed to modify that drainage, right? You'd have a little bit of teeth there. So I think, I don't think they'd be doing anything back there, but certainly if we put the PIBs there and restrict it along the 100, it really addresses both comments. So I think that's what we'll do.
Through the chair,
Yes, Don.
if that's allowed to go wild and trees went in there and becomes forested over time, is that going to have an impact on the flow of water going through there?
No, I think it just generally creates a drainage divide. It's not really an engineered swale that has that's taking you know, a piped culvert that has a large amount of flow. We
Okay.
really just try to have a portion of the site go to the basin, and then the back portion, you see there's a little bit of a ridge, just continue back to the you know, to the wetland. It kind of splits around it a little bit. So I don't think putting trees and having it grow in there, I think the overall, you know, topography would still maintain, and everything would still kind of go where it would need to. This doesn't need to be a stone line swale or an engineered swale by any stretch.
Chair?
Okay. Yep. Go ahead, Matt.
I guess just to enlarge on Melissa's point, a portion of the swale appears to be completely outside the 100-foot buffer zone and is presumably going to be sort of part of the backyard of the home. And I guess I would agree with Melissa's question on if somebody, you know, if the homeowner will look at it and say, oh, we don't like this swale here, the kids lose their soccer balls in it. Bring in a truckload of earth, and there'd be no requirement to come back to the commission or anything. So, you know, what is that? I guess just repeating Melissa's question, is that part of the O&M or not at all? Or what would prevent that?
No, I mean that portion of the kind of the fine grading of the backyard really isn't part of the O&M. It's really just the stuff comes around that corner is really, we just wanted to start picking it up. You know, if we wanted, we could put a line on there saying, you know, the note on the plan just to say drainage divide to be maintained. We could do that, but I don't think would really impact it one way or the other. I think as long as we keep the 100-foot buffer intact with the PIBs, I think that would really do what we were looking to accomplish.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's just interesting. You don't have a crystal ball. I've definitely seen situations where you have homeowners get in arguments with each other over water coming from one property to another and putting up dams. I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen here, but it's just a different situation where you don't have drainage easements or things like that the town's responsible for. I mean, I guess it will be the homeowners association. We'll have to work that out if there are any drainage issues that come up between properties and people don't understand that it is, supposed to be some water there when we have big rain events.
Yeah, you're spot on. That certainly has happened.
Yeah, I think to your point, Mr. Cusick, I think it would make sense to put, a note on the plan
Certainly.
so that when the homeowners, it's out of our jurisdiction, obviously, but, it's, at least it's on the plan so that if they decide to do something and they submit it to, an engineer to take a look at it, there's a notation there, not only on this parcel, but on other ones as well, where you might run into the same type of situation.
Yeah, I think certainly this one's more prevalent, and I understand the comment. So I will do that along with the PIBs. We'll add a little bit of clarity so it's on the approved plan and it's out there and not a surprise to anybody.
Yeah, I think that would make sense.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
No problem at all.
All right, questions from the public? Okay, so we'll continue this one out as well to the 25th. And then we will move on to Lot 5. So the Hopkins Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, May 11th, 2021 at 7 o'clock, virtually online, to hear all persons interested in a notice of intent filed by Toll Brothers to construct a single-family house with associated site work, 0 Chamberlain Street, Lot 5, map R23, Block 109, Lot 0.
All right, lot 5, just continuing down the way. We skipped lot 4 that had the drainage basin on it. This particular lot, again, same as all the others. The house is pulled all the way up to the street, and the yard had been maintained at 40 feet to the rear. That's what's establishing the PIBs to the rear of the site. The right portion of the site, as you're looking at it, you'll see the basin to the back and below, right in there. So you've got a lot of the grading and removal associated with that basin. So really a lot of our disturbance, I kind of double dipped, even though it was included in the previous notice of intent and order of conditions. You know, we just wanted to make sure we're still showing that on this particular plan, just to avoid any confusion after the fact. But much of the disturbance shown here is really within that top corner that we show. Again, pretty straightforward, very consistent with everything else by way of the erosion controls that we're showing. Again, holding that 40-foot backyard, and then we're connecting into the grading for the basin that is on lot 4, which is plan right from what we're looking at.
Okay, thank you. And I will open up to comments from commission members.
Okay, through the chair.
Yes, Mr.
I
Barker.
kind of opened the door to others. I'm looking at the backyard again, and we've dealt with this 40 feet from the house. But it looks like there are places where you've enlarged the backyard to go beyond 40 feet. One of them is where that PVC pipe is on the far left side in the backyard. Does that land need to be cleared for whatever function that pipe does, or can that be returned to nature after the work is done?
We can return to nature after the work is done. So I could round that off and pull that corner in of the PIB outside of the pipe. So the pipe would extend past it, but after the pipe was installed, we could let some of that area.
So that would make me happier. And then on the right side, we have a similar thing going on where the PIB dips even closer to the 50. It seemed to me on a previous lot where I was trying to encourage use of a side yard, you didn't see much value in the side yard. But here we are enlarging the side yard and putting us closer to the 50. So I'd love to see that PIB moved in keeping with what you told me was not valuable from a side yard on another lot. So if that PIB was pulled further higher, again, the directions I'm a little lost. I think that would be east. Yes, thank you, Don.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. We can hold that line consistent, because that is correct. We wanted to maintain some backyard privacy, and we can hold that over consistent through.
Could it even not just consistent, but get pulled even closer to the road? Because now that's not backyard privacy, that's side yard visible from the road.
It certainly is, but I think just to kind of keep it consistent, so you don't have a jagged kind of up and down lawn, I think would honestly just look a lot nicer and be a lot more usable. It's still at that area, you're pulling much further away from the wetland in that area too. You'll see there's really a finger that sticks out. And if we carry that across, it's still getting much further away from that and getting to the area, frankly, that's really already, kind of graded out as part of the basin.
It's all give and take, isn't it? We let you come closer some places if you give us back other places.
Yeah, no, I think that's what we've been doing all along. I think the applicant's done a nice job of doing that and taking the comments that they received, and again, even from the plan set that we're at right now, I think they've given up quite a bit at this point. But I get what you're asking for, and we can certainly look at pulling those PIBs back.
Okay.
Through the chair.
Yes, Mr. Harrow.
So to Ted's point, if you, as we look at the plan, if you start at the property line on the right side and drew a straight line to the corner at the property line on the other side. That would get rid of those two dog legs and make a nice, straight, logical back line.
Jeff, this is Jim. I would agree with that. The PIB can be much closer. They should look at how close they can bring it up to the house.
Okay, thank you, Jim.
Through the chair, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead, Carrie.
So can the applicant explain, and we were talking about the PIB, but how that plays into the easement for the drainage? Because I imagine that that area shouldn't or can't grow wild, that it has to be maintained, and that would be maintained by the homeowners association?
Yeah, so there's an easement, it's that dashed line that's being traced on your screen right now. It's kind of hard to see. The pipe actually falls right on the property line. So it's really split between lot 5 and lot 4, and there's an easement on either side. So you are correct. You don't want any trees or anything really growing on that. You want to be able to, make sure that pipe maintains, stays intact.
But it's not just the pipe, it's also the embankment for the detention pond back there.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
why it gets higher.
absolutely. You need to make sure you, and that is in the O&M plan. Need to
So
make
that
sure
section would be mowed by whoever the homeowner association.
that is correct. That is
So
correct.
just want
I
the
think
rest of the,
yeah, the lawn would be mowed by the homeowner, as part of that. It would look like their lawn to the front part of the lot. But as you approach the basin, the homeowner association would, have a contract with a vendor to make sure that is maintained.
so is there fencing or something like that to make sure that the home, like whoever they hire doesn't encroach more, or there should, I feel like maybe there should be something visually there along the easement to help.
Well, I think, the easement will be on a recorded plan. And I think as you come from the road towards the basin, the intent is that should look like lawn. You really don't want it looking like anything different. It really should look like a lawn. But once you hit the basin, that stands out, and you can tell really what that is, and that needs to be maintained. But I do think kind of what the comments prior about maybe pulling that back section of area up. So at the very least, there would still need to be maintenance of the basin. So that would need to be maintained. You don't want trees growing onto the walls of the detention basin. So that would have to be maintained by the homeowners association. However, by pulling the PIBs up a little bit closer to the street, that would further act as a deterrent from the homeowner from then going into the easement and the basin area, which I think is where you're getting at this point, to really prevent that from happening. So again, I think similar to the other comments, if we keep that PIB pulled up, I think it would really serve those two goals.
Okay. Do we have questions from the public at this point? And I don't see anyone's hand raised. Okay. All right, so we'll continue this one out to the 25th, and we'll move on to lot 15. So the Hopkins Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, May 11th, 2021 at 7, virtually online. Hear all persons interested in a notice of intent filed by Toll Brothers to construct a single-family house with associated site work, 0 Chamberlain Street, Lot 15, map R23, Block 120, Lot 0.
Okay.
Last but not least.
Yes, blocks of 5. So this again is on the Chamberlain side of the development, but it's on the opposite side of the road than the previous 4 we've just discussed. Again, it's all very similar in the intent of what we're doing. The house is again right up on the front end, right, that front setback. The wetland abuts us on the left-hand side. Again, it's a bit of a finger that kind of sticks out from the wetland area. We have kept the home entirely outside of the 100-foot, and we have some grading within the 50 to 100. It's about 7,600 square feet. We have provided PIBs along the limit of work that's shown where that slope is. And I think one of the earlier comments that we received from the commission on the first batch that we looked at is, we had a little bit of a cut, and they were concerned with just maintaining, making sure that that wasn't a wet area based on some of the soils that we have. Based on that comment, we've added the trench drain right at the rear of the home, just to hope, to maintain some of that water getting, really getting into the ground and infiltrating, as opposed to running over and potentially getting soggy. Erosion controls are the same as all other lots: silt fence and compost sock. I guess that's really the highlights for this one.
Okay, thank you. And I'll open it up to comments from the commission.
Ted, I assume you're going to start?
I'm happy to let somebody else start. I really am.
All right, I'll be Ted. Could the side yard be pulled in? The PIB?
We can look at doing that similar to the others. The grading would kind of go beyond it a little bit, but pull the PIB in. Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
Yep, you're welcome.
Through the chair, this question's pretty small.
Yep, go ahead.
Up against the road, it looks like there's a sewer or a drain there. I assume that it has to be clear around the drain, and that's why the PIB at that point follows what it does.
Yeah, that's what it exactly. I can pull that in a little bit as well based on Janine's comment, but we do want that to be clear because that's going to maintain some of the surface flow that comes down from there and then just gets directed underneath the road.
Right.
But I can pull that in a little bit beyond that.
So to build on Janine, Don, if you could put your cursor on the PIB dot that is closest, next one to the right. Go the other way, please. Right there. If there was a straight line from there, I don't know how far away that is from the house. Maybe that's 45 feet. Draw a straight line that stays 45 feet from the side of the house. I was about to draw on my screen. Kind of like that, Don, but a little bit more. I'm giving a little bit more room. Bingo, something like that, I think is in keeping with what Janine is also saying.
Yes. Which is in keeping what you were saying on the other lots.
Yes.
Yep, no, I understand the comment. We can certainly adjust that and tweak that in some.
Through the chair.
Yes, go ahead, Carrie.
So is the catch basin that's proposed in that front yard area existing?
Well, it was proposed as part of the subdivision roadway infrastructure. So it is. It's for the road. Yep, that's correct. There was a decent amount of water that's kind of coming down down the roadway there, and that was a logical spot to really capture it and make sure it continued on its way as opposed to getting dammed up by the road. So that was.
But right now it's proposed, or it's going to be in the property, not within the roadway.
That's correct. That's correct. So it captures flow from, I'll call it the north side of Chamberlain that would kind of run off and get dammed up by the road if it wasn't there, and it just allows it to flow in its natural path that it was flowing prior to the development.
So I have issues with catch basins in yards because most of the time they get clogged with mulch or grass clippings or other fertilizer or runoff, and yards aren't supposed to have catch basins in them. They're usually supposed to be for like gray infrastructure. So how do you propose to prevent that? And how do you, and is now and who's responsible for maintaining that? Because anytime somebody sees a catch basin in the yard, they just assume it belongs to the road.
Yeah, no, that would be part of the homeowners association. There's an easement associated with that. You can see a dashed line shown around it. And that's written up in the documents, and that would need to be maintained as well by the contractor that's doing the rest of the maintenance if they happen to be clogged or anything like that.
So how do you prevent like the grass clippings from getting in there?
So I think, if there were grass clippings that would get in there, there's a sump to capture those if they happen to go in there.
When they happen to go in there.
And it's a larger, pipe as well. I don't think if you have a grate like that, it really wouldn't, it's not, if you had a very small, you kind of call it like a little area drain or something, sometimes you might see, I think those could potentially get clogged up. I think this is a larger structure to avoid that from happening.
You would think, except that most of the time I get a lot of calls for the catch basin in my yard is clogged. You need to come out and fix it. And it's filled with just landscaping debris because that's what people do. And the one in the back is going to be even worse. I think it's really weird that roadway drainage is being handled on somebody's yard. But as you mentioned, that was probably the other NOI.
Correct. Yeah, that was all within the other notice of intent in order.
Yeah, this may be another notation on the plan, Mr. Cusick, so that when the homeowner, buys the property, there's a notation that, that needs to be remain clear, and free of debris.
It's a good comment.
Or yeah, like they love to put potted plants on top.
No, I understand the point, and that's a great comment. We can certainly do that.
We don't want them filling it up with sand or anything,
Yep. No, I'm with you.
Okay.
Great comment.
Okay. Do we have any comments from the public? Okay. I don't see anyone's hand raised. All right. Okay. So I think we're good. Thank you for the presentation on these. And just again, if you can.
Chair?
Yes, Matt, go ahead.
All right, Jeff. I guess just a question for John. So obviously there were a few comments that are on tonight. Do you anticipate issuing any revised plans sort of in the near future? Should I wait for a revised plan before I delve deep into these, or do you want to just go on the existing plans that may change?
No, thanks for bringing that up, Matt. I was actually going to ask that question as well to see what the commission's preference was. It would be our hope to essentially have everything addressed so we can come to the next meeting and hopefully show that we've heard all the comments we received and we're conscientious of your comments and addressed everything. So it would be, I guess, my hope to make some changes, resubmit it so the commission can see what we've done. And then that way I'm hopeful any comments you would have, Matt, would have already been addressed based on kind of following the intent of the last one. And obviously I know you haven't reviewed it yet, but I'm hopeful that anything that you have would hopefully be minor and something that we could address through a condition if that were the case. So it's a long way of saying I think it may be best if we make some of these minor changes and just get an updated plan set to you. I'm hopeful this would address some of the comments you may have otherwise had yourself.
Okay, yeah, if you can just let me know, like if you're thinking you would get them out to me by Monday or Wednesday or whatever, I can just kind of schedule my time to be most effective.
My goal would be to get them out this week to you, so you have plenty of time to go through it. I'm sure you're backed up from being out on vacation, but the more time I can give you, the better.
That sounds good, Mr. Cusick. Thank you. Okay. So if you can just send us the formal request to continue these out to the 25th. And I think we're ready to move on at this point. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for your time and your comments, and I'll send you that email momentarily.
Great. Have a good evening.
Yeah, you as well. Thank you all.
Thanks. Yep. Okay. So moving along, Lucier for Valentine Circle. This is a request for determination of applicability for an addition and accessory structures. The Hopkins Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, May 11th, 2021 at 7 o'clock, virtually online to hear all persons interested in requests for determination of applicability. Filed by Donald and Megan Lucier to construct an addition with associated site work. The location is 4 Valentine Circle, map R25, block 209, lot A. Okay. Do we have the applicant on the Zoom call tonight?
Yep, I'm here. This is Don Lucia.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Lucia. How are you tonight?
I'm doing well. Yourself?
Good, thank you. Okay, you want to walk us through what you'd like to do?
Sure. So as I think everyone knows, we built this house 5 or 6 years ago under an order of conditions, and that whole process was pretty involved. Ultimately, and we're still completing that, sort of really the wetland replication piece is still being finalized, but ultimately where our house is was built to sort of be consistent with what the areas we could build it in light of all the wetlands and other the riverfront as well. The goal from our perspective is we don't really have an area for a kitchen table in our house. It's sort of the house flows from a kitchen into the dining room, where we have a table kind of propped up in the middle there, but it's relatively small for our family, and ultimately just wanted to build a small breakfast nook to bump that out, which is shown in there. We haven't really gotten beyond. We met with an architect just to discuss it, and it was clear from that process that sort of the right next step would be to meet with the commission and get that squared away before delving into the size of all and really the dimensions of it all. But our sense was to do, I don't know, an 8 by 10 room that would be built on stilts. So it would not have its own slab or foundation, and would just kind of cut into the first floor of the house, and with a patio adjacent as shown there. The only other two pieces of what we were proposing were a shed, which is in the back there, shown at the very end of the lot right there, and fencing, which is shown with the red line around the back boundary. That fencing is more of a safety issue than anything. The lot is actually quite steep there. Our kids are a little bit older, so I'm not tremendously worried about it, but it's one of the things that from a design standpoint should have been handled differently. We should have probably essentially from a wetlands perspective, it sets up pretty well, because we're right on the edges of our property. There's a decline down and then another ridge up around the entire back of the property. So I think there's very little real practical risk of distribution into the wetland area. But ultimately that was, and I'm more, again, the fence is more about a safety issue for us than really a design element. I'd prefer to just level that off and call it a day. But so that's the big picture of what we're looking to do.
Okay, so the shed, is that lawn area there where you're planning on putting that, or what is that? What's the character of that area?
Yeah, it is. It is lawn area. I know. Yeah, for the pictures, I was going to suggest if you go back to that one, Don. Yeah. Okay. So essentially, it's basically in the area where we had the fire, just in front of the pipe from the septic system. It's essentially where we're at. So it is lawn area.
Okay. And this is, I know, Matt, in your review, this is identified as riverfront area, which is a resource area. But, my sense is, given the fairly minor nature of what the applicant is proposing here, the 8x10 nook, the patio, it's on stilts, it's in previously disturbed area, that's lawn, in the shed. I think the fence I'm okay with. Typically, since it is in a riverfront area, we just ask that, like, there's a couple inches at the bottom of the fence of a gap, just to kind of let the critters, so they're able to be mobile, move around. But those are my comments. I think I'm good with this. Matt, did you have any other comments specifically?
No, really, my comments really kind of revolve around, like you said, sort of almost more policy things of the commission, as far as, having an RDA for work within a resource area, i.e. the riverfront area. I don't disagree that everything in this application is all pretty minor. And then sort of the other topic of just that there's the existing outstanding order that hasn't been closed out yet. And there was just some discussion last year about, there's some deficiencies in that revolving around wetland mitigation. So I don't know if the applicant wants to at least give an update on that, so the commission kind of knows where that stands. I think Don, I don't know if you want to speak to that as well, as far as, I think there was a plan to issue sort of a friendly enforcement to allow that work to go forward, but maybe just kind of getting everybody on the same page with that wouldn't be a bad thing to do as part of this process.
No, I think that, yep. Go ahead, Mr. Lucier. Sure. Yep. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, I did mean to address that, so I'm glad you raised it. I know that, as Matt referenced, we had Goddard Consulting is helping with the original order of conditions, and we had planted, I think he had met with him. One of the issues we had was the size of the wetland replication area, and the problem was in order to put it anywhere, to make it the size that was originally contemplated would have involved taking down a lot of nice trees, old trees. So ultimately, as I understand it from Scott Goddard's team, the agreement with the commission, which was going to be result in a friendly enforcement order, though I don't think that's issued, or it hasn't issued, I guess, was that we would do some invasive species mitigation involvement in the existing replication areas, that the one that we built and the one that pre-existed there, and we would complete all of our planting. So we actually had all the plantings done in the fall. We just started the invasive species removal, and my son and I are in the midst of doing that, finishing that off. It's quite involved. There was also a lot of old debris, old Christmas trees from the prior owner that were stuffed in that area that we removed and got rid of, and all that as well. And so we're well underway there. The deer have had a lot of fun with the new species that we planted and eaten a lot of buds there. So I think we're probably going to be replacing some of those and replanting them. And I'm actually trying to schedule something with Goddard Consulting now to come out there and take a look and make a recommendation on replantings there. But it's something we're very committed to making sure that grows in.
Okay, great. Thank you for the update. And sounds like things are moving along there, so we appreciate that. Okay, so let me at this point open it up to other commission members for comments, questions.
To the chair, I promise it's quick.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Barker Hook.
Maybe it is of course, but if we could get pervious pavers for that patio, that would make me even happier. The patio next to the new breakfast nook.
I'm not opposed, so I haven't really considered the one way or the other, and I'm happy to look into it and consider that for sure. I don't know enough about it to be candid.
Or a gravel, just I would love it, whatever the surface is, to be pervious.
So that when it rains, it can infiltrate into the seams of, between the, the bricks or, stonework, whatever you're doing there, as opposed to just like, a cement base for the patio that the rain can't infiltrate into. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm happy to look. I honestly just don't have enough information about what the difference. We're looking for sort of a traditional patio look, right? But if that can be accomplished with those pervious pavers, then I'm fine with that. Even if it's a little bit more cost, that wouldn't be a problem from our perspective.
Great.
Okay, any other questions or comments from commission members? Questions or comments from the public? Okay, and what we're looking for here is a negative determination. So if I can get a motion to issue a negative determination for the request for determination.
So moved.
And a second, please. Jim made the motion.
Ted, second.
Ted made the second. We'll do the roll call vote. Melissa,
Aye. Did you hear me?
Carrie, Janine,
Aye.
Ted,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
and Jeff is an aye. All right, I think you're all set, Mr. Lucia. Thank you very much.
Great. Thanks for your help. Take care.
You're welcome. Good luck with the project.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay, I think we're back to the work session items done. That was our last public hearing for tonight on the agenda. Public hearing application. So I think the next one is the Center School to Elmwood Farm exemption request. And Mr. Lagoy, I believe, is on the line.
I am. Can you hear me?
We can. Good evening, Mr. Lagoy.
Good evening. Okay. So a little bit of history on this one. Yeah, Don, if you could just keep the map up for a bit.
Yeah, just opening up your other stuff too. Give me a second.
Okay. All right. So anyway, by way of history, there's been a loop trail behind the center school for years, probably 20 years. It's as long as I've been running back in there. In 2013, the town bought the town worked with Sudbury Valley trustees and others to acquire the Elmwood Farm, which is at the south end. And after that was bought, and at that time, they put in this network of trails down at the bottom. In 2018, an Eagle Scout working with Don put a trail in connecting the two areas, the Elmwood Farm connecting over to the center school. That trail you can't see topography on this, but it basically from Ash Street down towards the obviously heavy wetland area there that is actually now, it was old cranberry bogs. You can, if you look at Google Earth, you can see the old lines in there. But that area was right along the edge of the wetlands, that trail when it went in. It's a great trail. It's about 2 miles. It allows you to do a nice 3-mile loop close to the center of downtown. Just this year, a company called Athletic Brewing Company, a non-alcoholic microbrewery, has put out a request or a grant option for $500,000 for trail work. And what the Trail Coordination and Management Committee is looking at doing is trying to get some of that grant money to put this, to sort of upgrade this trail. As soon as that trail went in, there were clearly some wet spots along it, some areas that got muddy in the spring. What we're looking at doing with this grant is basically a bridge and boardwalk building project to cross some of these areas. There's also the opportunity at a couple of points to avoid areas that are wet. So, for example, starting up at the top, you'll see leaving the dashed red line alone, because that's just another option. You can see where there's that blue dashed line. That area is about 150 feet of area that's, if you were to go down there today, is pretty muddy. Mm-hmm. And it crosses a stream, and that's been there for a very long time. There's lots of very old logs that have been thrown in to try and get people across there. If we shift the trail, which is that red line, you avoid that area entirely. You have one little channel crossing that's probably about 3 feet, so pretty easily crossed, and that gets you to another trail. The next red area down, again, is that one just avoids 3 minor crossings, runs along the top of a ridge versus going over what are, again, I think, old historical channels. We'd intend to, the reason that's not dashed is we'd intend to leave that in place. It does take you out to a nice overlook of the wetland, but we don't want that as a preferred trail. And then the final little red area avoids another 100 feet of area that, again, right now is really muddy.
Mm-hmm.
Shown in the circles are the areas that we'd be putting in bridges. So some of these are bridges over existing streams that are flowing from the highlands down towards the valley. And then a few are simply boardwalks crossing wet areas where we really don't have a choice. One more up from that, Don. In this area here, where Don had to go back down, Don, right there. So that one is about another 135 feet of pretty wet area. And right now you cross it on rocks, stepping stones, basically. Mm-hmm. We think we can actually pull that up into the, a little bit into the upland, a little bit to the west of that, and avoid that whole area entirely. That's the hope. It's, but as you can see, we're right on the edge with that. So while I've got that in the plan, I think our hope is that we can just move that completely out of that area. Okay. So essentially what we've got here is an existing trail. We're looking to make it a little more friendly for folks trying to bike it, trying to run on it. Obviously I run it fairly regularly, but like I say, you have to sort of slow down and skirt around the edges. We want to turn it into a trail that, you know, it's a little more just run straight on through and boardwalks versus walking around the edge. And obviously the other benefit for you folks is that walking around the edge of these muddy areas just basically over time just, you know, makes that whole area not quite as nice. And people also tend to be throwing logs and all that sort of stuff in there. So this would be a more structured approach to that.
Yeah. Okay. So if you don't get the grant, will you still do the work through like scouts or?
We would probably try. It's sort of been on our agenda for a bit. Mm-hmm. Actually one of the first things we talked about when the TCMC was put in place was this area and trying to improve it. You know, make it less wet. But so we probably would do it in a more piecemeal fashion, but we have this grant opportunity, so it seems like a good time to give it a try, put the plan in place, and ideally we get to do the work. It's a fairly extensive bridge building project. Is what it is.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
Essentially 10 crossings.
Right. Okay. Yeah, it looks good to me. Let me open it up to the other commission members for their questions and comments.
Through the chair, I have one.
Yes, Mr. Barker Hook.
Excuse me, sorry. Mr. Lagoy, maybe I missed it, but I'm looking at the trail way up by the center school where you have the red lines and the blue dotted line. Yeah.
Yep.
So the blue dotted line I get, we're going to get rid of that one. I presume the red trail to the right of that replaces the blue, no, not that one. There you go. But the other red trail, what's the point of that? The one that Don, no, not that one. The solid red line right by that blue dotted line, Don, but to the left of it.
Way up in the top, Don. So that cuts off.
That part, right? What's the point of that?
Right. that's all in upland. The blue is very steep. And so this is trying to side slope a little bit. So that red goes down a side slope. A scout actually marked that red trail or along that line a couple of years back, but nobody used it. So the blue is what has been there for 20 years at least. But it's very steep. And so this is a way to cut side slope all in upland. You know, it makes sense to make it a little more gradual.
So
and again, go ahead.
Would the thought be to let the blue steep trail just go or maintain it as well?
Not so much maintain it, but to let it stay there. People could still use it.
Yeah.
So if you wanted a steep uphill run, you could do it, but the red would be the one that would be marked.
Okay.
So that's for older.
Yeah, the difference is,
that would be for older folks or people who are less mobile. Is that the intent?
No, it's just be another option. So the blue dashed is the trail that I think ought to just be removed. So any sign in there comes out, and we might even throw brush down at one end or the other to really discourage use. The other trail, like that blue loop, and then the second blue loop, and actually even the third one, those can stay there as an alternative, but just not a preferred route.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're not doing any harm, whereas the blue dashed is really doing some harm. That was my thinking on it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Any other questions from commission members? Any questions from the public? And feel free to raise your hand. All right, I don't see anyone's hand raised. Okay, and this is an exemption request, so we don't need to vote on it. I think this looks good. Mr. Lagoy, thank you very much. Looks like a good project.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I would add one last thing to add is that through the TCMC, we will be doing outreach to all those neighbors along the edges.
Okay.
Just part of our process. So.
Yeah. Oh, that makes sense. Okay, great.
They'll have a chance to comment.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Okay, Heritage Properties. This is Legacy Farms North, the violation and fines hearing. And do we have anyone from Heritage Property on the line?
Good evening, it's Peter Bemis, Engineering Design Consultant.
Hey, Mr. Bemis, how are you tonight?
Very good, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, so you want to kind of give us an overview of what happened and where we are now, please?
Sure. So this was the April 16th snowstorm rain event that caused a hot spot on the Trails project on the lower Weston Road section of the project. This is an area where there's some new construction going on with some new units, and the contractor had moved a great deal of fill to an area. Thank you. That would be helpful to use that exhibit, although the layout's slightly different than this plan does depict. So you can see where the red arrow is. It's primarily the turbid flow was going to the north from that section of the site. It was actually occurring a bit more east than that, but that's approximately where it occurred. And there's a ditch basically that runs along Wilson Street that transfers to Howe, and then it crosses Howe onto the Ashland Water Treatment Plant. And that's where the turbid flow was witnessed by Ashland, and they started an email chain that we picked up on a few hours into this event, and we were able to respond to it probably within a couple of hours of that, and the flow had stopped later that same day. There are mitigation measures now in place to prevent that from happening again. And we went through and actually did some housekeeping measures throughout the entire project site. The last time we were before you with this type of matter was in 2018 in the fall, where we had a great deal of problems. We did address those. We've not been before you since then. We've actually had very good conditions at the site. We actually built 3 of the stormwater management systems. They are in place. This area happened to turn into a hotspot because the ground is underlain with lots of rocks. So when there's a compost sock and silt fence at the boundary, the flow of water didn't actually get to that. It actually went through the ground and then came out on the north side, basically unimpeded. So that's why there was a problem. We corrected it, and again, that won't happen again in that area per se.
And then was the stockpile removed?
That stockpile was moved back. Yeah, there's a stable stockpile that's on that north project limit that has vegetation on it. That's still in place, but the other stockpile was moved. Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, good. So I went down there on the day of the event. And then I was down there a few days afterwards, and it appeared to me that the mitigation, was effective, that you did. So, thank you for responding to our request. What was a little frustrating from my standpoint is, this was on the Ashland border, and Ashland has its, private wells, in the Hopkins Reservoir there. So we had flow, sediment discharging into Hopkins resource areas and then flowing down into Ashland. And it was actually an email from the Ashland Conservation Administrator that we received, which I responded to. So, that was a little bit embarrassing from my perspective as the chair of the commission. But, it is what it is at this point. So we had, from the 2019 event, we did tabulate the fines when that had happened. I think the agreement that we worked out, or the discussion that we had with you folks at the time, was that we would hold those fines, which total $6,000, in abeyance, rather than assessing them, because you did, at that point in time, you're also responsive and did a lot of work to mitigate the incident at that point. But here we are. We had a second event, and I understand, it's a year and a half later, but it's a long duration project. The expectation of the commission is that the contractors are going to be prudent about the work that they're doing, and that this type of thing isn't going to happen. So I think, my sense is, I think, to be consistent with other fines that we've assessed to other projects in town, I think, the commission has a responsibility to take that fine that's been in abeyance and formally issue it at this point. And then I think secondarily, with regard to this most recent incident, my sense is, and I'll open this up to the other commission members for their perspective and comments as well, but I'm throwing you out what my thoughts are. We'll have Don tabulate the fines associated with this most recent incident, and, we'll hold those in abeyance, going forward. So that's my thoughts. Let me open it up to the other commission members for their comments.
I agree with your proposal, Janine.
Okay, thank you, Janine.
I agree as well, Jeff. I just have a quick question. What was the time frame as far as when the issue was identified and when you consider it resolved? I guess that's what Don's going to calculate, but it was that.
Yeah, so this time around, Don, correct me if I'm wrong, it was the Friday on the 16th that we got the email from Megan. I went out to the site that afternoon. I did talk to Mr. Gately that afternoon. I called him up. He had indicated that he was gonna get his contractors to respond to it. I think they did. They were out there that later that afternoon and over the weekend. Mr. Bemis, you can kind of fill in the gaps here for me. But it was, this time around, it was handled fairly quickly, but Mr. Bemis, go ahead. I wasn't out at the site.
It was handled within the same day, and that flow was stopped later that same day completely. So we basically had built a dam to stop flow from going in that direction.
I thought from the email chain, you were working throughout the weekend on erosion controls that were lacking. And
Other mitigation, yes, but not that the area where the hot spot was, Don, that was done that same day. And we continue to work the following week just to improve everything where we could.
Right.
As I had said in my email, we were going from winter, spring, summer, back to winter again for those several weeks. And every time we were trying to get things ready for we still haven't been able to hydro seed because the soil temperatures really didn't rebound yet until just recently. So we do plan on hydro seeding later this week, as a matter of fact. So yeah, it was a struggle there for that period to just get permanent stabilization in place.
so I guess from my standpoint, if the commission wanted me to tabulate something, you were still working on erosion controls that were deficient, and that's one of the conditions in the order. So yeah, you had the incident on Friday, did some work to stem that, but also you needed more time to work on erosion controls that were deficient. So to me, it would be like whatever that time you met again with Beta on site, like the Tuesday, the Monday, the Tuesday, the Wednesday. So to me, it would be a Friday to a Wednesday or a Tuesday timeframe.
You use your judgment. I'm not prepared to argue with those points this evening. It shouldn't have happened, and I accept that. So.
Yeah, we appreciate the response, but again, to be consistent and fair to other developers who we've assessed fines for, I think we need to move forward with this. I would just ask, and this is not only limited to Heritage, we're going to have a discussion with Pulte later on this evening, but, just driving through there, the erosion, and this is on other sites in town as well, the contractors just aren't maintaining the erosion controls. The contractors are working around the sites, they're getting pushed over. They're getting damaged because of snow, those types of things. And, we just ask that, you guys keep an eye on that type of thing so that, these don't happen again. And we just, believe me, I don't like sitting here, in this situation, having to have these discussions, but unfortunately it's, part of what we have to do. We just ask you to, really kind of keep an eye on things and, hopefully it won't happen again. So, okay.
Understood. That I don't want to give you an excuse because there isn't one that's acceptable. So, yes, we should be maintaining them and we should be vigilant about the expectations of everybody that's on site. So no questions. I don't disagree.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Mr. Bemis. I know it's a difficult site. You know, you have some pretty steep slopes out there. It's on the border of Ashland. But, you know, we appreciate, you know, your response. So,
Thank you.
okay. Thank you.
All right. I'm set. So I
Through the chair?
did follow up with Ashland as well, just so that you're aware.
Okay, great. Yes, Don, go ahead.
Directly with them too.
I'm sorry, I was kind of busy opening up a bunch of the information. Did the commission take a vote to issue the fine?
Oh, no, we need to do that. Thank you. So if I can get a motion to issue the fine that was previously held in abeyance for $6,000.
Ted, so moved.
And Ted made the motion, a second.
Ted, I'll second.
Ed's made the second, and we'll do the roll call vote. Melissa,
Aye.
Carrie,
Aye.
Janine,
Aye.
Ted,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
and Jeff is an aye.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Have a good evening. Okay, Praveen, 105 Saddle Hill Road. This is a continuation for an exemption request.
Good evening, Chair. Good evening, committee members.
Good evening, Mr. Praveen. How are you tonight?
So far, so good. It all depends on how this meeting goes now.
Okay. All right, so Matt, you were out at the site with Mr. Praveen, is that correct?
That is correct. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so just to kind of update at the last meeting, I had discussed the site visit that I had with Mr. Praveen, and there was a desire to sort of have it sort of written down on paper to kind of pull everything together. The information that Mr. Praveen had indicated, sort of written format of my comments and submitting some photographs to Don. So I prepared a memo that I think was distributed to everybody, that basically in tabular form kind of gives my opinion, again, as a non-arborist, or at least certified, for each of the trees. So that's, Don's got that here in front of the table, and I don't know if we just want to go through that point by point, or how you want to, if folks have had a chance to read it and already digest it, or how you want to do it.
Yeah, I went through it. Let's go through it point by point for the benefit of Mr. Praveen. I think, you know, I agree with some of these that need to be removed. Others, I think it's a little bit of a stretch from my perspective, but why don't we go through it, you know, on each line item, Matt, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, so number one was out near the road, rotting at the base. Seems sort of imminently dangerous to me. That was probably of all the ones out there, that was probably the most obvious one. So certainly wouldn't have any argument with the removal of that. It's right down at the end of the driveway, both for the homeowner and potentially on Saddle Hill Road issues. Number two was red maple that's sort of in the forested area to a certain degree, potentially within striking distance to there's a set of overhead utilities that kind of go through the forested area, don't really follow the driveway. And I suppose that tree would put those at risk, but there's probably a bunch of other trees that would fall into that same category. So that one looked relatively healthy to me. To me, that one didn't necessarily seem like a terribly high priority, but if Mr. Praveen wants to make a case for that one, he's welcome to do so.
Matt, may I interrupt for a second? Is that tree number 2 or 3? You said 2. But
Sorry, that was number 3. Yes.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Yeah, 3, I'm willing to, like, you know, I'm fine with it, because somewhere I felt because it was close to the electric pole, and during the heavy winds, we felt like, no, it was always touching the wires that runs to the house. So somewhere I was a little bit concerned, because in case of an emergency, if the wire cuts and it will fall on the road and people are driving around. So I was just being a little bit cautious, but So 3 and 6 were the two concerns that I had. But if everyone agrees, like, no, that's not a concern, but that's fine. But somewhere I'm just being a little bit cautious, given that, like, no, it was all the time touching the tree was too close, like less than 2 feet or something from the electric pole. So that was my concern.
Through the chair, could just the branches that are touching, do some pruning to the tree?
I don't think it's the branch, it's actually the tree, it's very close because it's a pine tree. So I don't see any branches there. I mean, it could be a thin branch, but I think that's not the concern. It's more of the height of the tree. And also when during the heavy wind, it swings left and right. So probably that's where my concern was.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought you said branches hitting the wire. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Well,
sorry.
if we're talking about number 3, that was a maple, Mr. Praveen, not a pine.
Excuse me, my knowledge on trees are a little bit limited. So excuse me for that.
That's fine. So I mean, I agree with Don that, there may be an opportunity for if, the tree person is out there to look at it and, if there's pruning of a branch or two that are, seem to be, an issue, I think that's a good compromise. Tree number 4 was a white pine that appeared to have some defects to it that was proximal to the driveway. I don't think I'd have an issue with that one going. Number 6 was the large white oak that's sort of at the corner of the driveway. Certainly it's near the driveway, not too far from the house. Again, to my eye, it appeared to be fairly healthy. It's the biggest tree out there. Probably is well older than any of the other trees that are growing on that property. Probably dates back to, when that was all on farmland, certainly. And my recommendation was, to potentially prune it or do what's needed to make it healthier rather than outright removal of it. But again, if Mr. Praveen has information that he wants to provide to the commission on that one, he's welcome to do so.
But on that one, Matt, if you go back to the picture real quick, Don, for number 6, see how the tree's kind of growing on that slab there, of the boulder?
Yeah.
Do you think that potentially is going to compromise the root system where, if you get some heavy winds, it would blow over, or did you?
If it was closer to the wetland and the roots were, probably more likely to be shallow due to high groundwater, I might have more of a concern over that.
Okay.
But it's kind of higher up in the landscape. And again, this is a big old oak.
Oh, it's an oak, not a pine.
Yeah, this is an oak.
Oh, okay, all right. I'm sorry. I thought it was I was looking at it, I thought it was, yeah, it's an oak. Okay. Yeah, so that should be.
I think that's pretty well connected to the earth.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Okay. All right, sorry.
Next one, I guess we're 10A, 10A, and 10B. These ones, let's see here. 10, I didn't see any obvious defects. It's a pine. It's close to the house and the driveway. 10A had sort of a double trunk at the top, and I know arborists typically will kind of frown on that because it puts a lot of weight up at the top. And 10B had an obvious crack in it. So those 3, being pines, potentially, there may be a defect in 10 that I don't see that someone else did. So, I mean, I don't have a huge problem if those were to be taken out.
Yeah, okay.
20, 21, 22 appeared to be well away from that. I think these were down in the rear of the property. Yeah, sort of down in an area where I think the Mr. Praveen was looking more to potentially expand the lawn really than any kind of a safety hazard per se. So I think if those, you know, if there was a strong desire to remove those, I think maybe those would be, you know, better, you know, permitted with whatever the project is within buffer zone that necessitates those removals as opposed to an exemption request. 23 and 24 pretty wrapped up in bittersweet and probably on their way at both pines, on their way out due to bittersweet damage, fairly close to the home. I think those probably should go. Same thing with 25. It's a red oak, but again, did not appear very healthy proximal to the house. And then 26 through I guess 36, sort of a whole cluster along the edge of the lawn that are certainly, you know, resulting in shade on the roof. And, you know, it sounds like Mr. Praveen had both a roofing company and the arborist tell him that, you know, it's causing some issues to the roof. So whether that's falls into the category of needing removal, I'm not sure it's a safety hazard per se, but it's likely a detriment to the property. But if you buy a house in the woods, that tends to happen. So that pretty much is kind of, I guess, concludes my report.
Okay, so in summary, I think tree 1 is okay. Mr. Praveen.
Okay.
3, I think we talked about, you know, trimming it rather than removing it. Does that sound okay? Or is that was that the pine that was against the wire?
That is correct, Chair.
Okay, sorry. So I think we said that one can go.
Oh, three is a maple.
Oh, 3 is a maple,
Yeah.
but it's against the wire, right, Matt?
That is correct, Chair.
I didn't see that it was all that close, but I could be wrong.
Through the chair.
Hold on, Ed. Yeah, go ahead.
I've been by a couple times on my bicycle. I haven't gone in the driveway. But I did, you know, through all of this, you know, see a few trees, and certainly the one at the street that's got bad spot at the bottom is, you know, no question, but the red maple, certainly from my perspective, and I realize that I am a tree hugger first, would not bother me in my yard with that proximity to the wires. I have a tree like not too dissimilar from that in my yard. And the other tree, the white oak, again, as I said before, I would be shocked if there was a need to take it out. I will shut up now.
Okay. All right, so number 1, I think we said was okay. Number 3, we would prefer to have that trimmed, Mr. Praveen, rather than removed.
Sure, Chair. I'm totally fine with it. My only concern, again, I'm just calling it out. If something happens, like I don't want to be liable. That if everyone, I mean, I'm not an expert, so if everyone says like no, it's still okay because it's a maple tree and it's not gonna fall, then I'm totally fine. I was just thinking about like if suddenly if it falls and somebody gets hurt, I don't want to be liable. That's my only concern. But if that's fine, I'm totally okay with that.
Well, when you have the tree company come out, can you have them take a look at it and make an assessment? You know, if it looks like there's a high probability for it to fall and there's liability, then I think we're okay. You know, if they say no, then I think trimming it.
Sure, Chair. Let me connect because somewhere I have to agree with what Mr. Matt said, because he mentioned like I called in like 4 or 5 people, but they are not arborists, but though they claim like no, they have some experience around it. So I would say like at least 70% of the people they said, yeah, you should cut it. But I was still trying to get, there was a recommendation or referral. His name is Mr. Steve. He's an arborist in Holliston, and I
Okay.
tried to connect with him, but unfortunately, he is busy. He said he'll call me back. I never got a chance. So I'm trying to do some research as well. But
Okay.
one thing I want to call out here is in the complete lot, it's a lot of like, 1.48 acres, like probably 1.5 acres.
Mhm.
And we have like 156 trees, just to call out. In my context, when I say trees, like anything over like say 6 inches thick and more than like 8 feet, 10 feet is what I count as trees. So we have like 156 trees. The trees that I have picked based on my discussion with Mr. Matt, it's more of like, either that's a threat or like, it could hurt someone or it could fall on someone or it could hit the roof or the basement. So some of
Right,
these
right,
trees are
yeah.
really- So that's the one reason I'm bringing this. In fact, the wetland and all other trees, I'm going to leave it as it is, because somewhere out of the 156, whatever is bothering is what I want to remove. But rest all, I want it in place because somewhere it provides a look and also it protects me and the environment. So that's the bottom line what I want to share.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I think, 1 and 4 were okay to be removed under the exemption request. 10A and 10B, 23, 24, 25, and then 26 through 36. Okay. I think 20, 21, 22, Matt, you were suggesting that we would need to do it an RDA as opposed to an exemption request.
I don't think they fall into sort of, they don't appear to be a threat to me. They're so far from the house
Okay,
and they're not terribly unhealthy either, so.
okay. So does that make sense, Mr. Praveen?
Yes, Chair, but my only request is on tree number 6. I understand, I know Mr. Matt did provide his recommendations. One thing I just want to call it out just to make sure, I interpret this correctly. If we can go to the tree number 6, please. So the tree that you showed, that was on top of the rock or rock was bothering it.
Yeah.
So there was one vision or one view of the picture. Probably if you can scroll down to the top a little bit, please. There should be another picture of this in a different angle. If you can go a little bit to the top, please. Somewhere I saw one view, and that was my concern again. So if you can go one more picture. Sorry, if you can go one more, please. Not this one either. Okay, yeah, this is the one. Sorry. Okay. So if you see here, Chair, the wood that you see on the right-hand side, it's actually the pole. And you see the tree number 6, it going like a V shape, or I would say a W.
Yeah.
The bottom line is it's all touching the wires, the electric wires here. And when I spoke to few people, again, I'm waiting for Mr. Steve to call me back. I'm going to get his opinion as well. So a lot of these branches keeps falling. And though it's a strong tree, the roots are hitting the roof, the basement, because it's a walkout basement. So from the angle the picture was taken, so the roots goes all the way to the basement is what I'm hearing. And also this wood, it's going the V shape. The lot of trimming, if we try to do, I'm told it will lose the stability is what I'm hearing. So if you can get me an approval, or probably I can do one thing. I can wait for Mr. Steve's call back. I'll try to get hold of him in a week or two, because I don't plan to, or the people that cut the trees, they're not available for the next 6 weeks. I can do an additional research and I can try to get you more data. If he's convinced, then I'm okay. But somewhere
Okay, yeah, why don't we do that then, Mr. Praveen? Just do a little bit more research and then, let us know, because you're not going to be able to do the work for the next 6 weeks anyways, right?
Yes, that is correct. But Chair, the reason why I bring the topic is hope I don't have to come to the committee and provide another I mean, like, of course, there is a time constraint here, but also do you have to come and wait for an approval? Is that how it's going to be?
No, you can work through Matt and Don. So, have your arborist submit his opinion, through an email to Matt and Don, and then they can, the commission will defer to their judgment on that. Okay?
Awesome.
Then you don't have to sit through another meeting.
Thank you.
As much fun as we know they are for you guys.
Really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Okay. All right. Does that sound good to everyone?
Through the chair, I did have one comment, and maybe I'm alone. Trees 27 through 36.
Sorry,
My
26 to
understanding is, Matt says, to his eye, they all look healthy, but they may be causing some moss on the roof. My question is, do they all need to be chopped down, or can they be thinned? Like, if you eliminate 1 in 3 trees, does that allow more light to the roof to discourage moss growth? Do they really all need to be removed for the problems Mr. Praveen is having?
Mr. Ted, the concern is actually moss is one of the challenges, but all these trees, the branches are falling on the roof. So that's where the concern is. And also the roots are hitting the basement. So there are 3 issues with the trees, and I mean, frankly speaking, like I said, I'm using literally 0.4 acres of the entire property. I still want to keep the trees, but I've been fixing the roof. Like, no, probably this will be the second time I'm going to fix the roof. So whoever I talked to, they said first fix the trees, then come to the roof, because it's going to affect the roof as well as the basement, the concrete walls. And that's one of the pictures shown there. The roots, all the roots are hitting the basement now, and we already see a lot of cracks.
Yeah, I don't know. The proposal is to remove 20% of the trees on your property. Now, we don't have control over a lot of the ones you want to remove, but that feels like a pretty dramatic step to remove 20% of the trees on your property. So I'm wondering if those trees that seem healthy, if thinning them might alleviate some of the problems rather than just chopping them all down.
Mr. My only, again, I'm just differing to the people because I'm not an expert. Whoever I talk to, they're saying, like, if you want to, if you don't want to spend on roof again, you have to take care of these trees that's bothering the roof and the construction. Remaining trees, I have no issues. So some of them are unhealthy, but these are trees, in fact, in the blueprint that I shared, it's all like touching the building one way or the other.
Yeah, I guess I have branches that fall on my roof too, but I don't want to chop down my trees, so.
Well, through the chair, I wonder if trimming back the branches that are over the roof is an option rather than removing the whole tree. I mean, that's what I've done in the past with branches over my roof, is just trim them. Just have somebody come to do that rather than remove them.
I don't know, maybe I'm alone, Jeff, but it feels very, very dramatic to me. You buy a house in the woods, you're going to have trees.
Dad, if it makes you feel any better, you're not alone.
Yes, I agree, but the concern is like not only the roof, the basement as well. So it's like, if I'm willing to do a trimming on the roof, but I think the basement, the roots hitting the basement, I couldn't find an answer to that.
Can we, Mr. Praveen, so for the trees that are removed, would you be willing to plant some, native plantings in place of the trees, shrubs, that type of thing?
Oh, Chair, in fact.
As a mitigation?
Yeah, Chair, in fact, I'm thinking a lot of things. In fact, so I plan to have an apple tree planted in the front because there's a lot of space in the front. And I see it's kind of open. So I plan to get some trees, move trees. It's not even like planting. I've been doing some research there as well. So we could use it. So there is some plan, but whatever the committee recommends, I will try to do it.
Okay, why don't we let you work through Don and Matt on this? So it sounds like Mr. Praveen is amenable to, planting some apple trees and shrubs to, at least replace the numbers 26 through 36. So, Don, Matt, are you guys comfortable with that?
Certainly.
Okay.
And you'll agree to anything at this point. I'm comfortable with it, though.
Okay, great. All right, does that sound okay, Mr. Praveen?
Yes, Chair, I totally agree. And like I said, I'll do some research as well. And from here on, like, now I'll share whatever information I get, I'll share with you all, and we'll make the decision on the tree number 6. And I think that's the only one that concerns
Okay,
me.
thank you. And Ted, Ed, are you guys good with that?
I'm
Janine?
better with that. I won't cause a fuss.
Yeah, I'll say I'm better with that, but you know, you're looking at someone who's got a sugar maple that's maybe 15 feet from our basement and hasn't pushed the basement in yet.
Okay. All right, I think we can defer to Matt and Don's judgment.
And I can send
in the
Mr.
interests
Praveen.
of-
Oops, sorry.
Pardon me, Don, sorry.
I can send Mr. Praveen, some native plant lists for his research of, something he can find that's amenable and won't become so big and problematic, near the house.
That'd be great, Don, thank you.
Thank you. And Chair, the planting doesn't have to be next to the house, right? It could be anywhere in the property, correct?
Preferably in
we
the,
try-
yeah,
where you're
sorry, Don, go
cutting.
ahead.
Yeah, where you're taking out all those trees close to the house, like 26 to 36, you'd have an open area, and if you could put something underneath them, when those trees get out, a shrub that's not going to become 50 feet tall and send roots to, if you can get something in that area where you're cutting, would be amenable.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Yep. I totally agree. Yes.
Great, okay, thank you, everyone.
Okay, thanks. So.
Have a good evening, Mr. Praveen.
You too. Thank you all.
You're welcome. Okay, Polte Farms, Legacy Farms North, we have a violation discussion. We have anyone from Polte Farms on the call tonight, please?
Yes, John Engdahl from Pulte.
Hi, good evening, Mr. Endall.
Good evening.
All right, so you want to kind of give us an overview of what happened and what mitigation was put in place, please?
Sure. Well, we're continuing with the construction of the roadways. And at the far end, we had constructed one of the detention ponds. Not quite a year ago, and it's been functioning very well until very recently, when it appears that the water has found its way through the old rock fill, similar to the situation we had out back.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to do a little research. We identified where that area was. So we have basically constructed both of the ponds in that area very close to their finished product, shy of topsoil, obviously, and have installed a clay liner in the first one, which is the area that we had most of the breakout. So in the last two rain events, although they have not been very significant, we have not seen any indication that that breakout is still in that area.
Okay. Okay, and the erosion controls, it looks like were repaired.
Yes. Yep.
All right.
And the part of the report also, there's some track out on the lower part of Poplar Road.
Yeah, has that been addressed?
Yes, it's been addressed, and we're maintaining the sweeper a little more often. We're actually trying to make it a one-way for the construction traffic,
Mm-hmm.
so that there's less traffic going out that way over the dirtier roads.
Okay, and then I think we haven't received a SWIP report in a while.
Well, that's and I talked to Anna and I tried to talk to Don about that. At some point, Steve Palmer is our stormwater representative on site, who does reports weekly and after every rain event. And at some point, just prior to when we stopped sending them, he was asked not to send them to anymore. He looked for an email. He doesn't remember who it came from. But they've always been on site, and I believe he's been sending all of the back ones to Dawn in
Yep.
Chuck.
Yep.
And
I've received, yeah, I've got
oh.
2019 through 2021 right now.
Yep.
But
So I believe you're up
obviously-
to, I believe you're up to date, but I'm not 100% sure.
yeah, we got caught up. Yep.
Okay,
Okay.
great.
I haven't had time to look through 2 years of erosion control reports, but they're on
Well,
file.
what have you been doing?
Planning his
Well, I-
retirement.
Well, I apologize for the confusion, and so does Steve. And
Yep, no worries. Yep.
Okay.
I wish I could pull up the email, but I can't. So,
I've never told anyone not to submit erosion control reports per the order of conditions.
yeah, and again, he
Yeah.
doesn't know who it came from, but it's our issue as an oversight on our part. The good news,
Okay.
you knew
All
we
right.
were doing them because he sent them to you quickly, so he wasn't making them up.
No, they were all backdated. You probably just had to scan them and get them over to, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
You just had hard
exactly.
copies. Yeah, so I
Yeah,
understood.
and in the event that something happens again, please notify me quickly. Because they all are on site in notebooks. So,
Right. And obviously we've got hundreds of active files, so, you know, we can't basically
No.
you submit it to us, we file it, you know?
yeah, understood, understood.
Yeah, so, okay, so, well, thank you for the responsiveness. We appreciate it. You know, Beta went out to the site on April 8th and 16th. You know, they put their report together. It looks like
Yep. Yep.
things are under control. You know, this is the second event we've had in the past, you know, 24 months. We had another event, I believe it was back in 2019.
Yes, it was a similar issue in a different section.
Right.
Yep.
So what I think we need to do, Mr. Engel, is, you know, what I'd like to have Don do is just, you know, tabulate what the fines are related to this most recent event. And then just have you come before us, you know, at our next meeting so we can take a look at that and the commission can determine, you know, whether we want to hold those in abeyance or, you know, whether they should be assessed, if that's okay. You know, just to be consistent with, you know, how we've handled similar situations on other properties where we've, you know, had the same types of issues. You know, first time around, we tend to give you guys the benefit of the doubt, right? And, you know, we hold back the fines, but then when there's a second event, you know, that's similar at the same site, then, you know, just to be honest with you, you know, we typically do go forward and assess that fine. You know, just kind of to let you know what our process is.
Yeah, understood.
So Don, if you can do that for our next meeting.
Sure.
And then, Mr. Engel, if you can just plan on joining us for the 25th, and, you know, we can have you know, just continue the discussion if that's okay.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Were there any questions, comments from the commission members on this? Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Engel. And
All right,
again,
thank
we
you.
appreciate your response to the issue and in addressing our concerns.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good evening.
You too.
Thank you. Okay, number 9, Town of Hopkinton, 192 Hayden Road. This is the Marathon School, a request for a 6-month extension permit for the order of conditions. I think there are a couple.
Not the Marathon School.
No.
Oh, no.
No.
This,
Which
Jeff, this
one
is
was
the
this? I'm
Hughes Farm
sorry.
Trail. Yeah. This is the Hughes Farm Trail. We've essentially completed it. There is one bridge that needs to be put in. I could get it in before June and was actually hoping to do that. But there's water on sort of both sides of that bridge, or where we're planning to put the bridge. And Scott Curran, who's my constructor, said, don't play in that area until it dries out, which makes a lot of sense to me. So that's why I'm asking for the 6-month extension.
Okay.
So
makes sense. Seems pretty straightforward. Any questions, comments from commission members? Questions, comments from the public? All right, if I can get a motion to approve the 6-month extension permit for 192 Hayden Row for the order of conditions.
So moved, Janine.
Janine made the motion, and a second, please.
Ted, second.
Ted, and we'll do the roll call vote. Melissa,
Deb, she messaged me that she had to step away for a little bit.
okay. Carrie,
Aye.
Janine,
Aye.
Ted,
Aye.
Ed,
Okay,
Jim,
Aye.
and Jeff is an aye. All right. Okay, 110 to 112 Fruit Street. This is an exemption request. Good evening, Mr. Lagoy.
Good evening again.
Good evening.
So
What do we have on this one?
what this is the Pratt property. So if you're driving down Fruit Street, the Pratt barn is on your right. You pass the Pratt pond also on the right. The town now owns that land and a field that's back behind it. There we go. Currently, there's that yellow mark shows where that field is mowed, and that area is can be used as a trail. What we'd like to add is a trail marked in the purple dots here, extending along the woodlands, connecting from close to the parking area over to the backfield. Then another trail in the woods, again close to that's Whitehall Brook that's shown essentially surrounding this backfield on 3 sides. So it gets closer to the brook. Down at the south end of the field, then the third area is proposed sort of for a view spot. That area is in a stand of pines and cedars, and just would be a walking one way. There's a lip of sort of a wet area between the field and most of that view area, which is why we only have a one-way in and one-way out.
Okay.
The rest of this trail is all in buffer zone. The other thing we'd like to do is put in a trail sign at the road. So that's up up there, and a kiosk, which an Eagle Scout is putting together. So just to let people know that this is actually town property. And then the final thing would be just medallions. Again, the area where the kiosk and proposed sign are going are, I think that's riverfront. It's in the 200-foot riverfront. It's probably buffer zone, and it's also floodplain. So the trifecta.
Yeah.
So that's
And
obviously that's why.
ACEC.
What?
It's an ACEC as well.
Oh yes, right.
But the trails you're putting in, I mean, you're not doing any major cutting of trees or anything. You're just going to kind of meander through the existing wooded area, right?
Correct. These are trails that would be equivalent to what was put in along that center school to Elmwood Farm previously. So this is the basically walking path. There's one bridge, and that's over looks like a man-made channel that goes out in that direction. So you need to cross that, but everything else is just meandering through the woods.
Yeah, no stone dust or anything like that, right?
No. This is just,
Yeah.
yeah,
okay.
there'll be signs going up,
Okay.
and
All right. I mean, it sounds like a good project to me. I don't have any further questions, so I'll open it up to the other commission members.
Yeah, if there's no stone dust, no paving of any sort, and if it's a natural walk to the woods trail, that's pretty okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So any comments from the public? I don't see anyone's hand raised. Okay, so Mr. Lagoy, did you retire recently? Where are you finding all this time to work on the trails?
Other people are doing some of this trail stuff.
Oh, okay.
No,
All
this
right.
is sort of a culmination of a few things.
All right. Well, thank you for doing it.
All right.
Appreciate it. Okay. Have a good evening.
Yep. All right. Thanks.
You're welcome.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Parks and Rec, 4 Lakeshore Drive, project status.
Hey, I guess I'll just say that it's in process. That is the request for a COC. I thought it would be in for tonight's meeting, but it'll be in for the next one.
All right.
Dave D'Antonio's been out to check everything out, so he'll verify. He'll do the project verification.
All right. Sounds good, Jim. Thank you for the update.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the public forum requests and is Kimberly still on the line? So
I'm still here.
hopefully
Made it.
Hey, Kimberly, how you doing? Thanks for hanging in there all this time. So everyone, this is Kimberly. She's our new conservation administrator. Hopefully you got my email. And I just wanted to welcome her, and we have to formally appoint her by the commission. So if you have any questions for Kimberly, feel free to ask her at this point. Or we can proceed with the vote to officially appoint her. All right.
Notice how he's avoiding saying your last name.
Carrie was telling us in Framingham, they called you Kim Shara Kamoli.
Share cannoli.
Shara Cannoli. Is that true?
Very true. Yeah.
All right. That's funny.
Through the chair,
Yes, Ed.
I've looked through your resume, and it's a nice combination of different not the same field, but different employees and different vantage points. I think you're going to be a great addition. Thank you.
Thanks, Ed. So do you know when your official start date is, Kim?
I am supposed to be waiting to be confirmed officially to set a start date, but we are eyeing May 25th.
Okay. All right.
For the chair,
Yes. Go
trial
ahead,
by
Anna.
fire, I think after all of our continuations tonight, that puts 20 or 21 new hearings on May 25th.
Yep. Trial by fire, Kim. Well, hopefully you'll be ready.
Do
All right,
you
if
want
I
me
get a
to,
motion,
Do you want me to attend that meeting? I assumed I would.
Yeah, I
wouldn't
think-
wanna throw her totally under the bus. You
yeah,
know
I
what
think
mean?
that makes sense, Don. Maybe for 1 or 2 meetings, it would make sense to have, the 2 of you. But let's, we can kind of discuss that offline, I think, and figure out what's appropriate and what you're willing to do, Don.
Well, I mean, because you got a front load for a meeting. I start downloading, we send out the stuff on Thursday.
Right.
She wouldn't be starting till Tuesday. So that'd be ridiculous to have her, have to,
Yeah, that'd be too much, definitely.
right. And then
Definitely.
she might not be familiar with every stuff, in the folder, so.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't mind coming to the meeting and then, and then she'll get a sense, then she'll be able to gear up for the June meetings probably.
Okay. All right, well, if I can get a
We'll
motion.
play it
to-
by ear, yeah.
Yep, that sounds good. If I can get a motion to appoint Kim to our new position as Conservation Administrator,
So moved.
in a second.
Second,
You need a second, and we'll do the roll call vote. So Melissa, not sure if she's back on. Carrie,
Aye.
Janine,
aye.
Ted,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
and Jeff is an aye. All right, Kim, congratulations.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
You're welcome. And feel, if you have any questions or anything, feel free, obviously, to reach out to Anna or Don. And feel free to reach out to any of the commission members too. They can provide our contact information for you. All right.
Will do. You will
Yeah,
be hearing
send
from
me an email if you want, and I can give you my phone number offline. So if you have any questions going forward.
Okay. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Don.
All righty.
All right, Kim, thank you. And then we had one more work session, public session, Don Maspinock Woods.
Yeah. Let me dig
Project
that up.
request.
Where's my public forum? Oh, just gotta grab my public forum folder. There she is. It seemed like a pretty minor request. Came in.
This was for the new house they just put in.
Yeah, and the gas company was giving them a hard time that it wasn't clearly shown on the plan. So let me grab their project change plan. You see, it's pretty straightforward. They just wanted it called out. Because I think they just had the water and sewer lines
Okay.
shown. And the gas company wanted their gas line to be shown before they actually went and did it.
Okay, and that's in the construction area.
Right, exactly. I mean, it's
Yeah.
going where the other utilities are going,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah,
um,
okay. So you're gonna motion to approve the project change request,
So moved.
Ted, and a second,
I'll second.
Jim, and we'll do the roll call vote. Carrie,
Aye.
Janine,
Aye.
Ted,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
and Jeff is an aye. All right.
Jeff,
Yes.
I'm sorry to do this to you. I sent you and Don and Anna a few more photos from the Leonard Street Petrosi project.
I was
You
gonna
did.
ask about whatever
Yeah.
happened with that.
And my wife, while we were in this meeting, took a walk, and there's yet another problem with one of the silt fences besides the two that I photographed this weekend.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just
Through
like to say, I feel like we gave him permission for an incredibly intrusive project. And the project seems to be proceeding with astounding carelessness, given what we allowed the developer to do. And it's extraordinarily frustrating to me.
Yeah, why don't we have him come before the commission at the next meeting? Anna, if that's okay.
And I know, Ted, I've got overwhelmed with emails. I haven't had a chance to, I know it's there. I just haven't downloaded, but I also did get erosion control reports. So I think you have links to the file. So I was able to download the most recent erosion control reports. If you want to take a look at those, because they're always a little backdated too, So if you want to, you can see at least the progression of how they're dealing with it, just as an FYI,
Yeah.
Through the chair,
Yes, Matt.
to Ted and everybody, I went out and did a site walk, I guess, a couple weeks ago. And I found several deficiencies as well, that I sent in an email to Don. I think it's probably in his backlog there somewhere. So I think probably it'll be worthy of a discussion at the next meeting. I would agree with you.
Yeah, I agree. If we can do that, that would be good, Don and Anna.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll add that
okay.
to the agenda. Just want to let you know,
Okay.
you can read up on where we're at, and it's what I'm getting at. It could be documented in the reports, because Gordon's gonna go out and say, well, this is deficient X, Y, and Z, and then the next report should be saying if it got fixed or not, so that's what I'm sort of alluding to,
Yeah, and I was out at the site a couple weeks ago and talked to Mr. Petrosi and just, told him that, this was after we sent him the first round of pictures. He had his consultant or his contractor come in and repair everything. And I just met him out there and I, to take a look at it. And I said, look at, you just got to make sure that, you're following the order of conditions, because we're not going to give you a lot of leeway on this. And, you're under the eyeballs of the commission. He's like, oh, I understand. I expected it. So, to see that we're continuing to have the problems, to echo.
Hello, welcome to Golden Pond Assisted Living and another episode of the Golden Pan Cooking Show. Today I have Pat Barata. He's going to show us how to make his infamous chicken stir fry.
This is a great meal because you could basically use whatever you happen to have in the pantry. The basics you do need for chicken stir fry: celery, onion, peppers. That's called the Holy Trinity. We're going to be using broccoli and then some other Chinese vegetables. Anything you have in the kitchen or the pantry, you could use cauliflower, you could use green beans, you could use celery, snow peas, you could use cauliflower. Most people in stir fry use carrots where you do the match butt cutting. I happen not to like carrots, so I don't put it in, but you could do anything you want. Basically, we start with celery. I've done some already, but you cut, you could use anywhere from 2 to 4 stalks of celery, depending on your taste. Cut the stalk in half, and then all we do is cut on the bias. Cut on the bias just to give it kind of a nice look.
It does look pretty when you cut it on the bias.
Yeah.
Now, what about the pepper? I noticed that you chose a red pepper. Can you use green peppers and
I use,
orange peppers?
for presentation purposes and appearance purposes, I use a red pepper, a green pepper, and a yellow pepper. But it's your preference. Red peppers and yellow peppers tend to be more sweeter. The green pepper is kind of firmer. I had an onion. I used 2 onions, cut them in half. You're just going to cut it very thin.
Now, Pat, I noticed that you're using a white onion. Can you use yellow onion?
Any onion you prefer. Red happens to be a little stronger.
Okay.
Basically, I think this is a Vidalia onion. Vidalia onions are very good. They have much more taste.
Hi, John.
Hello.
Come back and try some chicken stir fry.
Now the pepper, what I usually do is I cut a pepper in half this way. Then I take this off.
Sticking just a little bit so I'm
Yeah.
toss it.
Put a little